That's
You're the
it. We
driver.
are on air. I think we're one of the lucky ones to get on air today. As there seems to be some glitches on
Wow.
YouTube. You can get to
That's
posts, but you
crazy.
don't seem to be able to get to most of the channels. But I started making this post before the glitch, so maybe we were lucky. But you
Sure.
can't get to your channel, so most people can't make Hangouts. So anyway, today is the 2nd of April 2018. On the panel today, we have Astral Thief, we have Patricia and Lev Kung Fu. They're from the UK, and special guest is Bling Bling BS of the ISS.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, and Bling
Hello.
Bling's out
Hello.
driving.
I'm out on a on errands, and I have a driver in my car, so it's a little weird, but it works.
Oh, you don't usually get driven around then?
Well, I don't do hangouts usually, on the move. Kind of usually I'm at the house, but we're on our way home, so at some point we'll get there, and then I'll move back to the inside of the house doing it. But right now I'm just driving home. But I had to do some stuff. I had to today, so I forgot. I kind of forgot about the time element with the hangout because of the UK time. I don't know why I didn't sink in strongly enough. You would think I'd know by now, so sorry about that. And then with the glitch that we had, thankfully it's
Yeah,
fixed
you
now.
saw it as well, though, didn't you, Bling Bling? You saw on your phone. You could see you couldn't get to certain channels.
Yeah, I couldn't play a video from the NASA channel, but from another NASA channel because they have more than one. I could play it, and then the live stream of beautiful space with the Earth in all its glory, I could see that no problem because that never goes away, sadly.
Yeah, never goes away.
And as much as I hate having to even look at it, I still have to look at these stupid NASA videos to make footage to show you guys. It's like,
Yeah, I'm afraid I've got one in the making. Mine's wires, dust,
mm, nice.
water, and the bending, sort of straight, bendy, big, bendy globe, which they seem to, every time they move around, the globe changes shape.
Yeah, we live on a very strange planet, don't we? Must
And you
be
know what, as well,
much
Bling Bling.
material.
If you follow Enslaved by No Media, he's explaining that he can't even on his P900 zoom in 3-4 miles. He says he can zoom in, but everything is a bit misty. Yeah, and that's in 3 or 4 miles. So he's saying if he can pick up the tail numbers of the planes really clearly, they can't even be 4 miles away. They've got to be about 2 miles away. So how are
Is
they
that
on
the
the
one that?
space station,
Is that the one where
hundreds of
he?
miles away, getting a complete ball in the picture?
I think I've seen his videos. He had the stop sign at the end of the street that he had zoomed in on.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually disappointed. I forgot yesterday because it was Easter and I cooked a dinner, but the space station was doing a flyby over my house, and I wanted to set up my tripod because
Hey,
my
Bling
tablet was
Bling,
asking.
Bling Bling, especially for you.
Wanted to wave, and get footage, but it wasn't doing a solar, like a direct solar flyby. It was like going to be to the side of the sun, so it only goes by for 1 second, one and three of a second. So that's really fast, but and then it was like after 5, and I forgot. So, but I've got 2 more chances in the next coming days. It's going to be passing by my house some more, so I'll get it. I won't miss it again. But I'll keep trying because I've got my P900 as well. So I used to do a lot of footage of the moon when I first got it, and the stars and whatever else we're looking at out there. But it gets kind of boring after a while looking at the same moon all the time. I don't know if you ever looked at and watch the curve, the original video that my first video, and I was actually just talking about it with my son yesterday because he brought it up and he said, "Mom, what were those numbers on the moon again?" And it's like 4,400, Andrew. Like my first video on my channel I had taken video of the moon and I was studying it, and you can clearly see the numbers 4400 on it and some other writings as well, like GO7, I think it is. Like, it's really clear. So I always thought that was kind of strange. No one's ever really talked about it. No one's really investigated it, and it's so obvious. Then they had a TV show that was called 4400, and it was like a space show. I thought that was kind of a weird coincidence. So weird. So what's your new video going to be about, Karen?
Well, just those bits. I don't know. I think it was actually because it annoys me so much, as you annoys you. And I was watching your videos, and then I thought, I bet you if I go to the videos, I'll find mistakes. And then it was a bit like, there's one I do want to do this separately, where he's basically they're saying how far the children are asking how fast can you jump up, and the thing is he almost does a Superman where he goes on and up, his whole feet disappear, but the other astronaut he doesn't, because it can't be that high, can it?
No,
Not
it's
in the space
actually,
station, it's above their heads, and he went right up. I'm gonna have to find that video again and
well, I did have the
make.
dimensions memorized, but I've forgotten them now. But yeah, it's not that tall. Plus, they've loaded all those panels of their experiment panels, so it's made it much smaller, even still. So yeah, there isn't a lot of room for all this
Yeah, but
movement.
not above their heads,
Um,
is there?
did anybody
No.
again?
And he does the Superman thing, and his whole feet disappear out of the picture.
Quality education brought to you by NASA. The,
And
the dumbing down of a school system. That's all it is. It's the brainwashing and the propaganda that they provide for children to make them believe that we live on a spinning ball in outer space in an infinite universe, and we have a space station, and you can be an astronaut one day. But I was watching, oddly enough, a channel because I had just done a simple little search, flat Earth, and something came up, and it was a young girl. She looked like 15 or 16, and I'm like, oh, who's this girl? And I thought she was going to say something derogatory about flat Earth, and here she is, like a little conspiracy theorist, 16-year-old, talking with her grandfather, who also was in agreement that he felt that the moon landing was faked and they filmed it somewhere on Earth. And she looked like she was so close to becoming a flat earther, and I thought to myself, now here's a young girl that's 16 years old, that's been brought up in the highly indoctrinated school system of dumbing down, that they don't even teach you like cursive handwriting anymore. And she couldn't read her grandfather's birthday card, though, and he gave her a birthday card. He had to read it to her because he wrote it in cursive, and she didn't know what it said. So sad. But she's got a channel of 45,000 subs, and she's almost a flat earther. And I've reached out to her, so I want to talk to her, and I want to continue to encourage her to watch flat Earth videos, to watch Globebusters on Sunday afternoons, to get educated, and so she can start promoting that on her channel with her 45,000 subs of other 15 and 16-year-olds, because that's where we need to be focusing on, is these kids that are being brainwashed in their school systems. I relent the floor.
yeah, or any other channels which are promoting flat Earth, support them as well. Thanks for
Absolutely.
that, Bling Bling.
But I had
Yeah,
never
well,
considered that there would be any really young people that would be talking about flat Earth and not doing Tide Pod challenges or makeup tutorials. So I was happy to see that there are kids out there that do know about truthers and what's going on, and the Illuminati. And her grandfather even knew about the Illuminati. And there was so much that she talked about that she's always been watching a lot of educational YouTube videos, because that's where our education has to come from now, to know what the truth is, not what the schools are teaching, because the schools are all just propaganda and lies. So does everyone know that last night on April Fool's, the Chinese space station crashed into the Pacific Ocean?
yeah, I heard that was coming. I can't
Yeah,
remember whether
and on April Fool's Day too. Oh,
Astral or Lev told me. I can't remember now.
it's just prolific that it would land on April Fool's Day, where it can't be verified or seen by anybody because it's not there. There's nothing there. Unless they just threw a bunch of junk out of the back of an aircraft carrier.
It's really weird. When it came to the Gulf War, they wanted us to see everything. And now they don't want us to see anything.
Yeah, well, we're just supposed to believe what they tell us.
Yeah,
Without
yeah.
questioning, without any verifiable proof or evidence. Just we're not allowed to question. Just the mainstream is the authority, and that's we should just obey and listen. And sorry, not interested in any of that. Just want the truth, whatever the truth may be. I don't care.
Even if you're, sorry to interrupt you, but even if you're one of the people that wants to spread the truth, and and you can verify things, and show this kind of stuff, you get shut down. There's certain people. Yeah, I'm not going to mention any names or anything, but you know what I mean. Censorship is just prevalent at the moment.
Well, I've noticed though that a certain person that has a last name that is like pig. There are new videos out, and they're still up because I've been watching, and because this certain person is sort of falling away from the limelight now, and I think they're moving on to other things. So I think we're going to be able to start doing whatever we want to do again, talking about more about what we want to talk about without retribution, without strikes, without cancellation of channels. So hopefully that is what's happening, because there's quite a few videos now that were recently uploaded, and I keep checking, and they are still there. So that's some good news for us truthers, because they certainly had us under attack in the recent weeks, and over this whole thing. Is that vague enough?
Well, I don't think even a person's there when you write. I think it's a robot or a bot thing that's there, because they never ever answer anything you say. It's a bit weird, really. And then they go and direct you to about the last place you need to go. So it's absolutely pointless writing to them, almost.
Yeah, really. Well, if they'll ever even read it, I doubt it.
Anyway, yeah, I was watching one of your videos. The one with the little trolley or whatever he is sitting on, whizzing past. Bling Bling. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yes, let's talk about it. I need to know a consensus just in the chat. I don't know how many people we have watching. Oh, hello to the chat, by the way. Can you see the reflection in it's my newest upload, which is a couple of weeks old, of a Japanese astronaut doing a tour, and there is a reflection where I point out that it looks like he's standing on some kind of a scooter or a Segway of sorts. And I've reversed the clip and forwarded the clip, but sadly, in my rush to upload it, I forgot to add the arrows that I planned on adding to it. So I talk for a good 4 minutes to talk about what you're going to see. So I usually don't talk that much in before I show something, but I was pretty upset over this one, and it was almost a rant. But there is definitely, if you look on your largest viewing screen that you can, looking on a phone, it's going to be very difficult to see it, even though that's what I was looking at when I first spotted the movement. Because people, when I look at the videos, I use jeweler's glasses, so it's 10 times magnification, and I really study this stuff. Like, it can take me hours to get through a very short video, because I know I'm going to find something.
Yeah, you have to slow it down, don't you? Bling Bling.
I slow it down. I usually start out though watching just in full speed, and to see if something catches my eye, and then I'll go to the slow down, and then if I think I see something, that's when I usually bring in family members to verify if they can see what I'm seeing, because I don't want to be accused of seeing faces in clouds, which the haters love to say that I have a vivid imagination and I see faces in clouds, but I don't, because I've always verified it through my family. But in this clip, there is someone standing on some kind of a scooter / Segway, and they're holding a camera. You can see their hands. You can see the cord from the camera is attached to a vertical black post, and it is attached to that. And then when you continue on in the video, you will see a reflection of the astronaut holding the camera, showing himself purposely in a reflection. And there in the clip, you see that same coiled up black camera, but this time they're trying to make you think and experience that it is floating. But in the previous clip that I show, that black cord is attached to that black post that is vertical, attached to this, whatever this machine is, because it's something for someone to stand on and transport themselves along the ground in a smooth way so they can video and appear, of course, that they're floating, I guess. And you can see that it's like shaped like a white box that's attached to the vertical black pole that's attached to the cord. There is a black box, and if you study it hard enough and long enough, you'll notice a little bit lower in the video, there's like a big round circular area that is a reflection, and then below that there's some more glass that has reflection. You can actually see his foot that's resting on like a little white thing. It's leaning against something. But I've watched it for hours, that just this footage, like painstakingly, to be able to have it so memorized that I'm just sitting here in my car and I have it all memorized in my head. I know exactly what it looks like when it goes by. And you need to have your brightness all the way up on your you can watch it on like a desktop or your laptop or your television. Have the resolution set all the way up so you can really see. You will see. I've added through Final Cut Pro, some more enhancements so I could bring up that reflection more, so it would be stronger in that video. I do everything I can to try to enhance reflections, because that's what I like to go after, in the videos that I make. I've done everything possible to help, to make you see it, to make you see what I see. Sorry I didn't add the arrows. I will happily add the arrows and re-upload it if I have enough people that are saying, yes, can you please do that, because I can't see it. I'll do that for you, because I want you to see it. I don't want you to feel frustrated and think that it's not there, because I promise you that it is. It's just, you have to have the right resolution, brightness all the way up, and just the patience. Just look for movement in general when you're first looking at it. Don't try to see the individual things that I'm saying. Just try to find the movement in the reflection. And once you see the movement, then try to now look for the individual shapes that I'm talking about, which will be a black vertical post, the black cord that's attached to the camera itself, the astronaut holding it. You can see the skin color on his hands, and then the foot resting on the little white square, the white box that he's standing on. It's all there. It's just a matter of having the patience to look at it. I've tried my best to help you see it, but sometimes my best isn't good enough because I forgot to add the arrows. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it looks like he's kneeling on it, doesn't it?
Well, I actually thought he was maybe sitting on it.
Right.
It looks more like he's sitting on it when it's going back one direction over the other direction, which is weird. Kneeling, I don't know. I've never really considered it, but the one thing that we can agree on, he's on it, and it's moving, and it's not floating. It's on the floor and it's moving across the floor. So to me, that's our proof. They're not in space. He's on some kind of a thing, being wheeled across the floor to give the illusion that he's floating along, taking a video. And we've all watched these tours that they've done of the ISS, where they go on forever, showing, one module after the next module after the next one, and all this gear. I think they're doing that in a highly edited way, where they're shooting, to make it look like they're floating through all this, but when they're really just somehow wheeling this thing through there and then blending it together somehow. I wish I had the capabilities, to be able to, like Zach King, he's one of my heroes on YouTube, makes the most incredible videos using I don't think he uses Final Cut Pro. He uses other editing software systems where he can crack an egg and out pops a baby chicken, and he can be pouring a pitcher of Kool-Aid and it turns into jelly beans, and it looks so real to you that he's like, how is this possible? And it's all post-processing. So anything's possible in post-processing. They can do so much to make you think that you're seeing something very real when none of it's
Yeah,
real.
like that toy turning up. That she was
Like the what?
doing well, one of them was doing an experiment for some children, and then basically this red toy appeared out of nowhere, and she picks it up and then she brings it down, and you think, oh my goodness! No one at the school said a word. Not, hey, didn't that just appear out of nowhere?
You see, and it's, and I'm sure everyone has seen the gymnasium footage where what is it?
Oh yeah.
The whale.
Don't.
And how about Mike Helmlich that showed in China where they had somehow holographed into the sky a spacecraft, and they had to warn people beforehand that it's not going to be real. I don't know why they were doing it. Maybe they're just testing that stuff out over in China before they do it to us. And they're not going to tell us it's not real. When they do it to us, they're going to make us think we're having an alien invasion. But I mean, it looks so real. I watched the video again yesterday, and it's like, man, that looks really, really authentic. I could see how that could fool anybody. So what's it for them to make NASA videos with their massive budget to make you believe? Because it's just, that's what they do. It is. It's not a space station, a working space station doing scientific experiments for the good of mankind to develop medications and drugs in our bodies and all this stuff. That's all they're doing is propaganda videos to indoctrinate children into believing in space. That's it. That's what it's for. To make us believe we're living on a spinning ball in outer space. It's so obvious once you're awake. You see it. It just seems so cheesy to me too. It's like, it's not even well done.
My favourite part of it is the wires. The wires.
Absolutely. And
Like, and Bling Bling, I know that you'll understand this because you look at footage. I mean, how could they use those lights on the ceiling? I mean, they're stupid.
The lights?
Yeah, these weird cheap lights which stick out from the roof. Like, they would never have lights sticking out like that. They'd all be fixed into the walls. I mean, these things look like anyway, it just looks stupid.
Well, I think I've seen a lot of different lights and reflections over the time that I've been doing this the last couple of years, and I've often thought that too, like, well, that seems rather dangerous considering that there's no up, that you're floating in all these different directions, or how you're not taking out any of this, all these lights with your foot or your elbow or your head, like, you would think it would be more contained and safe. You wouldn't have electrical equipment just stuck out in odd angles all over the place to brush past your body and knock yourself in the face, or hurt yourself, your elbows, your knees, or all the wires get caught in your neck, and all these cords floating all over the place, and all the ridiculousness that everything on the space station is plug and play on the outside.
It's just so stupid, isn't it? All those wires. I mean, there's just hundreds of wires sticking out everywhere, and when they're actually floating around in it, I just want to say, for goodness sake, can't one of you at least tidy up?
I've heard, some astronauts have made comments that I've heard over time that I've tidied up, but some other astronauts, naming no names, will come in here and get it all messy again. But it's my understanding, what they do with ground control is every single item on the space station is, accounted for and placed in a certain area, and it's all recorded in some knowledge base over at NASA. Because I believe that's all real, even though they're faking it. They have to keep the lie going even to the employees of NASA that are sitting there in these command control centers doing the job that they think is real, which is not, just like they did with the moon landings. Every person sitting there had their one job, and they all thought that was legit. Well, that they continued that same routine. It worked then, and that's what they do now. So all those employees sitting there really think that that's real, and if they have
Hey,
any
I was
doubts, they
watching one,
probably
Bling Bling. Bling Bling, where do you think the water comes from in the
say that.
ISS space station? Where do you
Say
think the
that again.
water comes from? Where
Oh,
do you
well,
think
they
they're
bring up.
drinking?
No, well, they bring up water. They have water. They bring it up. They have several different water, like bags. There's like the drinking water, and then there's some other, what's it called? Not gray water. They've got, I think, 3 different styles of waters. I watched a whole thing on it once, just to know about the water. But no, they're bringing up water, but they don't have to bring up as much water because they are recycling the water through their pee and their sweat.
Yeah, that's what I was
You
going to
know,
say. Yeah, they're even recycling their own pee.
yeah, they're drinking that. You know, they make a nice cup of tea with that, Karen. Nice spot of tea for you. Yeah. But yeah, that system is probably a real thing. I think everything that they have there is a working thing that they have in Star City, which is just, it's in Russia. Star City is where they have all these astronauts because that's where they all go to launch in the rockets. So I believe that they stay in Star City. They have some bunker somewhere that has the this whole setup. So all these experiments that all these schools and universities and colleges send to NASA so they can go up on the space station are sent to the bunker where they still have to complete the experiment and send it back and write the report. Like, it's just all a one big, huge, massive scam. But they have to do it this way because there really are people sending experiments to the space station, you know, universities and colleges. I mean, I don't know if you knew that or not, but they're not just making that up, but what they're actually doing when we're watching them, they're not doing any of those experiments. It's all done on the ground somewhere.
And
And
you know what you're turning into, don't you? You're sort of turning into a forensic officer.
I know way too much about something that I despise, and that's really twisted. I could much prefer spending my time with my horse or with my dogs because, I'm an animal lover, I'm an animal activist, but I'm also a people activist and I'm a truther. So I never thought in a million years that a couple years ago I would be sitting here right now talking about that I want to take NASA down. I swear. I just thought I would continue with my horse and my chickens and my dogs. But my life
Yeah, I
really
think a
changed.
load of us would like the outcome the same as you.
You know, it's like I wish I could be that person, like my stepdaughter, even though she knows the truth. How does it apply to my life? And you know, as long as I'm, you know, happy and living my little bubble, it doesn't matter. And I just, like all of us here, we just can't, we're not that selfish. And I hate to say that. I love her to death, but we're thinking about more than ourselves when we're trying to educate everybody else. You know, we really care, and we're frightened, you know. But I don't think, and as much as we're all trying and rallying to get the truth out, I think that everything that's coming to us in the way of beyond flat earth, I'm talking about Agenda 21, I'm talking about, you know, the loss of our freedoms, the loss of, of our lives, the loss of property ownership, having to live in stack and packums in 14-story buildings along railway tracks in a controlled environment where everything's a wildlands corridor, and we can't openly travel anymore, and everything's going back to the animals. And we are now, well, our value is less than animals. Our value is pretty much nothing, where they're going to depopulate the earth to the 500, you know, million people that is the plan. The Georgia Guidestones state that out too. And anyone that doesn't know about Agenda 21 needs to just get a book, and you can order it from the library. It's not some crazy foil wearing nut that just made it up. There is a book, and coincidentally the book is bright orange, and you can get it and you can read all of its chapters. It's a big book, and it clearly talks about depopulation. It clearly talks about the fact that they want to ban apprenticeship, that they want to have you live along corridors, and they will section off the United States to be the first place to. We won't be able to travel freely. We won't have cars anymore. We'll be on bicycles.
Yeah, listen, Bling Bling. They've already got us living in apartments.
You know, well, the UK is also very. ICLEI is there. ICLEI is in the UK. I mean, your government offices right there. ICLEI works in conjunction with the Agenda 21, which was the United Nations effort that happened in 1992. This is a real thing. Anyone can read about it, learn about it. So I know we're all advocating. We want to know where we live, but the horrible fact and the reality is we don't have much time. We don't have much time to live where we're living, because they are going to round us up and they are going to kill us. And that's the truth. And that's the horrible truth. And I don't like to make videos about this, and I won't, but people need to know that. It's not just about flat earth, guys. It's way more than that. It's true. It's all true. Look what's happening in this country right now with the gun control. That they've got these kids rallying, trying to brainwash all these kids into thinking it would be a good idea to take away our Second Amendment. So we won't have guns anymore. When they come for us to take our land, we will not be able to defend it. And all living in these stack and packums. And everyone that's making videos about chemtrails, you're right. It's all happening. And then the 5K, the 5G, I should say, that's all happening. It's
Well,
all
they've let us build our own prison, haven't they?
And that's what this is coming to be. And I'm so sad about it. I'm glad that I'm in my 50s now, that I don't have I'm halfway through my life, because I don't want to be here when this happens. And my biggest, saddest part is that I have a little grandson now, which I've wanted for so long because I was such a young mother. And I have the sweetest little grandson who's going to be a year old, and his life is going to be shit because of what's going to happen to all of the people that are left here. And there's nothing that I can do about it. It's prophecy. It's in the Bible. It's all coming to pass right in front of us. They're doing it right in plain sight. Look up in your own neighborhood, your own cities, if you have an ICLEI office. That will confirm to you that, you know, how many times did you hear President Obama talk about sustainable energy? I mean, he was saying Agenda 21 to you every time he said that. Every time he talked about sustainability, he just replaced the word. Instead of saying Agenda 21, he just said sustainability. And everyone just, it sounds really good. Green spaces, and we'll be recycling more and be healthy. We won't be riding in our cars so much. Yeah, bikes are good. Yeah, that part is. But not what the end result is, the true goal of these crazy monsters that are sitting there dreaming this stuff up, what they want to do to all of us. In the big picture, who cares if the earth is flat? I hate to say it, guys, but does it even freaking matter when we're all headed in the same direction and there's nothing we can do about it? Boy, I'm a real doom and gloom. I'm sorry to bring so.
Patricia was talking about that the other day. Patricia, are you
she?
there? Patricia.
I didn't even know that she was. I haven't.
Patricia, well, tell Bling Bling what you think the world needs.
What I think needs?
Yeah.
Love. More love.
Love? Sounds easy.
Yeah.
What's your plan?
Well, other than talking to people and stop being frightened of our neighbours, because ultimately all they want is to be loved and to be able to love. And, you know, I think that's the basis of everything. You know, we've been divided that much. So we just need to get back to reality and go, right, we love people whether we know them or not, just to love.
Well, for normal people like us, Patricia, that's totally doable, plausible, acceptable, makes total sense to people like us. But to these madmen, this group, this Illuminati group, they don't love anything except themselves. They don't love us. We're goyim. We are sheep. We are nothing but the worker bees. They will never love us, and they want us dead. And until we can, there's nothing we can do. Just, I don't even know really what to say about it. Like, in the big picture,
Do you know what I think it is?
it's
They've got us
probably,
looking at the television and saying, oh, these are the animals, they're the animals, but they just omitted to say, actually, you also are the animals too, that need to be herded, flocked, whatever it is. They're doing the same to us as we do to the animals, to eat them and stuff.
absolutely they are. Absolutely they are. But, you know, in the Bible, it says that we're to reign over the animals. We're to reign over the earth, you know, that we're God's perfect creation. But, you know, it's just funny, the narrative now, you know, the mainstream narrative now, there's so much radicalism in regards to like real hardcore veganism. People going out, holding signs in front of a restaurant, harassing them, telling them that they're murderers if they're cooking meat in their restaurant. I watched a video the other day of a bunch of radical vegans holding signs telling them that they were murderers, and then the guy that owned the restaurant came out with a leg of deer venison, and he started like slicing it up in the window of the restaurant as a way of like telling them to like go, you know, take off. Like, I'm not going to yield to your radical demands. I mean, I was a vegan for 8 months in my own life. I didn't feel well doing it. And you know, it's funny, but I went on a business trip to England. I was in Nottingham for 2 months, and I ate my first meat there, and and I didn't worry about mad cow disease. It was quite tasty, but I just didn't feel right. I didn't feel well. I didn't have a lot of energy, and I was a hardcore bodybuilder for many years, and it didn't work for me. And then when I developed my spine disease because of wearing out all my cartilage from doing such heavy leg presses and everything else that I did, I got a lot of body inflammation. So I can't have carbs. I can't eat carbs. Carbs is sugar. Sugar causes inflammation. So I had to go back to, you know, eating a high fat, mid protein, very low carb diet. And when I do that, I feel better than I do when I eat carbs. Even though I love carbs, who doesn't? Anything fried and battered and, you know, breaded and all that yummy stuff. Like, yeah, I like that, but it didn't work for me. It doesn't. Everything I have has to have very low carbs in it. But you know what? I'm not going to go around and tell people that they have to adapt to the lifestyle that I lead, which is I eat a keto diet. You know, I'm not going to tell you, Karen or Patricia or anyone else here, that you have to do what I do. You should do what works for you. Now, I'm a huge animal lover. I mean, I don't just talk. I actually walk the walk. And my and are very happy to see me.
I think Bling Bling's returning home. While it's changing over to your internet, it's gone a little bit funny.
I raise chickens as my way of giving back to the world because I eat chicken. You know, I eat chicken, but I raise them. But I don't eat.
Bling Bling, you're cutting up a little bit at the moment. Bling Bling. I think we've lost her for a moment there. Until she comes back. Astral, what's your favourite?
On data.
Oh, there she is.
Let me try that and I'll fix this.
Are you back? I think we've lost her sort of for a moment there.
I
Margie,
turned my
oh, you're
settings
back.
on my phone to stay on data and not switch to the Wi-Fi.
They're still breaking up a little bit.
Oh, you lost me again?
Maybe it's just picked up now. I was just going to ask.
Go into the house and log from my house out through that.
Yeah, I can't really hear you at the moment, Bling Bling.
Log inside the house. I'm going to log.
Oh, that's better.
From inside my house.
Yeah, that's better now.
On my, you guys. Oh, it's okay. I shut my car off. All right. Hopefully, I'm not going to get jumped on by my dogs. They get so excited when I come home from being away because I don't leave a lot. All right. You still with me?
Yeah, we're with you now. That's okay.
All right, Emma. All right, Emma. Sorry. Whew. That's better. How's the reception? It's all right?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, good. All right.
I was just going to ask. You know, I know we'd moved on, but you know, you were talking about like NASA. I was just going to ask each one of them what's their favourite hate. Lev, you haven't got your microphone shut off. What's your favourite hate of NASA?
Me? Oh, who are you asking first?
Just Lev, because he's on the panel.
Okay.
Like you were talking about space station earlier, and one of the things that's bugged me for years is like they spend all this money, all this searching to get the space station up there, and the resources it costs and all that lot. It's been up there for 17 years or however long it's been down, and we've got nothing from it. You know what I mean? What progress has it made for mankind? It's only cost lots and lots and lots, and it's like whenever they show us an experiment, it's pathetic. You know what I mean? Like showing us a bit of water floating about. We could have done that 17 years ago. You know, and I don't know if they've shown other little tiny experiments and stuff like. I don't know if it's really pathetic and stuff like. There's a lot more things that they could have done. Like if you had a wet room on the space station, you know what I mean? I think that would have made a difference. You know, it's like I don't know ideas like that. It's like it's not even well thought out. You know, there's so many things that we can pick at it. You know what I mean? So it's like there's flaws in everything they've done, kind of thing. Like, but it's like the modern stuff. It's like when they do make a flaw, it's kind of like, well, it's obvious it's not real. You know what I mean? Like not having a wet room on space station, all these water experiments. It's kind of like, even if you could like make a makeshift wet room, you could like get some like a, you know, like tent material and affix that area of a space station, so it's not going to affect everything else and stuff like. I don't know, you know, just little ideas and stuff like that. But I think the other thing is like the dark side of it, you know, like the Illuminati and the fact that they have got all these quite horrible, evil intentions and stuff like. And then you see something like that on the reflection of like Bling Bling's video, and you could see the guy with a glass of wine and the mask and stuff like that, and it's kind of like the glass of wine. That's almost like, you know what I mean? It's proof of gravity there, kind of thing. Like, it's almost like rubbing his nose in it in a sense. You know, I don't know. It's weird and it's creepy. Because when you look at, I don't know, all other conspiracies, when you come out and combine it all together and stuff, and there's a lot of creepy sides to it and stuff in there. And like you were saying earlier about like how it's all happening and stuff like that, it doesn't matter what shape the earth is, does it? It's the fact they've lied and they've got these intentions which go with it. And like you say with Agenda 21 and stuff, like I do believe that is completely the truth of what their agenda is, kind of thing. They do want us cattled up, basically, you know. I can imagine, you know what I mean, like scenarios, what the future would be like and stuff. And it'd be like more like dormitories than houses and stuff like. I'd imagine everything to be automated, you know what I mean, like your doctor's prescription type thing or whatever, with a computer at wall which gives you your things, you know what I mean, your tablets which is necessary for you. The food you get would be kind of like the standard food for everybody, and it's kind of like, you know, the hot dog videos you see and stuff, and it makes all that pasty stuff, and it's disgusting, isn't it? But I imagine a lot of people would be eating that kind of stuff, or even worse, you know. But it'd taste nice. It would probably put flavorings in it and stuff, and plenty of E numbers and all that. But I don't want this future though. I kind of what we're talking about and what our intentions are. It's like we should be leading the situation more than anybody else. But yeah, that's what it kind of makes me feel like. It's difficult to tell, you know, what people want to say, what does it matter? And I always say, you know, it matters because the government's lied, and I try and hint towards it, but it's like some of it, it's kind of like you can't express it all to them, because, you know, if you express it all, it just sounds too ridiculous, kind of thing.
Thanks for that, Lev. Thank you for that. That's just a mirror of sort of what Bling Bling was said, but you feel the same. Thanks. Thank you, darling. Patricia, because she's there.
I'm here, yeah. You don't need to say my name twice just because I'm good.
What's your favourite hate thing of NASA?
Oh, do I have to just pick one thing?
No, you can say what you like.
I'm joking. I don't know, just the fact that they think that most people are so gullible to believe anything they put up there. You know, it's just everything. It's like, why they have to do these these walks outside to fix it outside. It's just stupid. Why, you know, a spacecraft, an aeroplane doesn't have wires outside. So why would something that was up there a long time, or supposedly up there a long time, have wires and stuff? It's just stupid, beyond words, really. I yield the floor.
Oh, thanks, darling. Astral. Astral. He's there.
Hello.
Hello, my darling.
Yeah, I just, like everyone said, it's just ridiculous, you know, to think that anyone is falling for it anymore. There's too many things. Something in particular that I would like to think about now is, well, orientation of the astronauts. They're always orientated the same way, and whenever they do a little twirl, they always twirl the same way. There's never any variety, because there is, for them, an up. You know, there's an up and a down, because they're stood, aren't they, or whatever. I don't like that. There's just too many things, too many shady things, and a lot of good videos that have been put out there. So, and more around to come as well. You know, they're revealing themselves. More people are uploading. You know, and the rate of videos that are being uploaded, they obviously can't keep up with it. So they're going to just get busted wide open, and that's, I think, what's happening.
Yeah, I've busted them with paused astronauts. My feeling on that one, Bling Bling, is that when you've got to lie to people that much and make a reality that's not real, then you're taking the people's freedom away, because you're making them believe in something that's not real. So you're taking their freedom away. I hate that. Who wants to be lied to?
Well, it's true. Taking the right to decide for yourself. You know, it's, if someone wants to believe that we live on a spinning ball because they want to live in an alternative reality, I think they should be able to do that. You know, but we should have the ability to choose. You know, if you want to be in the truth, or if you want an alternative, because this world is so crazy now. Why shouldn't we have the ability to know or live in the reality that we want? Because what's right has gone wrong, what's sweet has gone sour, what's right has gone upside down. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like the Bible prophecies are all coming true. If people want to believe
I
that they live
suppose
on a
though,
spinning
Bling Bling,
ball, let
they've
them.
got to do anything to keep the ball, haven't they?
They want to keep a stupid ball. You know, I don't want to, I just want to know what it is for sure. But I know it's not a ball, because there's been way too much amazing minded people that have carried out such prolific experiments that have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that there's absolutely no curvature. And to me, that's all we need. We don't need anything else, but they're going so much further with experiments. There's no curvature, so there's no ball. So it's flat. I don't see why that's so upsetting to people to accept, you know.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, yeah, we didn't kill anybody. We haven't hurt anybody. We're not lying. They think you're crazy, and I just think, oh, you want us to believe that we're doing 260,000 miles an hour, going 3 different directions, one anti-clockwise about 1,000 miles with the moon, and the other 2 are with the sun. That adds up to about Mach 80, and we don't feel a thing.
No.
You want me to believe that one?
I watched a video that scientist Michio Kaku, maybe I've slaughtered his name, and I don't. He said that he thought it would be a great idea to have a space elevator, and they could attach it to the space station on a cable, on a barge on the ocean, and secure the cable to the barge with a little bit of play in it, so we could like go up and down. The only problem with that, I don't know if we didn't think about it, is the fact that the space station is traveling 17,500 miles an hour, and that barge would be like towed all around.
It wouldn't be a barge anymore, would it? It'd probably be smashed to smithereens.
That's just lunacy. And here he's a serious man, and he actually said that and talked about that. And it's like, it just made me laugh so hard. It's like, and there are people in the comments saying, oh, you just don't know. They've already figured it out how to do it, and they're going to do it. And okay, go ahead and do it.
Hey, Bling Bling, the other thing I noticed in the bit of the video I've just made was that in his the astronaut that's outside looking for an ammonia leak, okay, they're looking for little shavings of ammonia leak. He's got like an Apple. It could be a phone or just the iPad bit, like one, you know, the little music thing. He's got one of those stuffed into. It looks like a mobile stuffed into his sleeve. I mean, if the mobile can be okay out there in no gravity and all that crap, then I'm sure he would be all right. He could be able to take his helmet off. But I mean, you can take your phone out. I thought I've put on there. What was he going to do? Ring a friend up and have a chat?
He was going to do FaceTime.
Yeah.
Out in a spacewalk.
Yeah. I mean, like,
yeah, I know what video you're talking about with that white was coming out, you know. Just,
do you know which one it is? I
yeah.
think, oh, yeah, sorry, it's that one. And I did the other one where, you know, the guy who likes to look at himself. He turns the camera around, the selfie, and he looks at himself. And then he's outside and it's all noisy. And as he's walking around, you can see that there's plastic over things with ordinary little plastic, like, clips on them. It's plastic.
Stickers stuck on. Like, none of it makes any sense. And, you know, getting back to, is it Kung Fu? Lee Kung Fu, what he had said. And you asked him about his favorite, you know, dislike about the space station. And I wanted to just briefly talk about that. And I'd gotten sidetracked before. Was, yeah, in the almost 20 years that it's been up there, and it was very recently that there was an event done. And that question was asked to two astronauts by some kid, like, what is the greatest accomplishment that the ISS has discovered in the time that it's been up there? They had to turn off their mics and have a private conversation, which went on for an awkward amount of time because this is a live event. And finally, they came back on and they said that it was that they were managed to grow lung tissue, which had only happened just weeks prior to that. And I was thinking, boy, they're really lucky that they were able to mention that darn lung tissue, because what would they have said? So basically, in 19 years, there's nothing to say because there is no huge breakthrough in science that they've done. Because, well,
I suppose really what it should be, Bling Bling, is the most horrible place to be in. I have to watch every 5 minutes because I have to put my hand up so I don't touch the ceiling of the plane. I'm lying to you. I hate it because they make my hair stick up, and they could just go on like that, couldn't you? That's what they should be saying.
Can you imagine if you needed to scratch your nose in that damn spacesuit? Like, everyone knows that feeling where, for whatever reason, you've been in a position where you can't scratch your nose for whatever reason. Like, can you imagine having to wear that thing for 8 hours, 9 hours, because I think 3 hours of checks, and then they do what, a 6-hour spacewalk, and they can't scratch their face or nose for all those hours. I think someone could eventually go insane not being able to relieve something going on your face.
It would definitely be.
Maybe they've got water jets now, which can come in, can't they? Because one nearly drowned, didn't they? So they got water jets can help with the itching in the helmets.
Guys, I'm sorry, my dogs. Stop. There's nothing to bark at, but stop. Shh, sorry.
Yeah, dogs like that, don't they? They bark at nothing.
Well, they're excited. Maybe I don't know. Someone drove by, or a bird flew by, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, bird will do it.
But I often, I think of that when I watch the spacewalk videos, and they've got the damn spacesuit on, and they're sitting there, and they can't even move their arms. Like, you can see how tough it is. Like, it looks so cumbersome, and all I can think about is I'm panicking right now because I feel so claustrophobic, just the thought of that. But I'm thinking my nose would instantly get itchy knowing that I could not break through that glass to touch my nose and scratch it,
When you look at it, you know you're looking at a blue screen, though, don't you, Bling Bling? You just really know that's a blue screen.
They're wearing the suit. I'm not questioning that, but I know they're not going outside on a spacewalk. They're doing it in a swimming pool. We've gotten way too much proof of water bubbles. And I mean, there's my video that I've made, and there's a man in the video walking by. If people can't see it, maybe you're not meant to see it. And I say that, I'm not saying that to you guys or to the chat, but my haters, I can't see it. Well, like I say in my videos, maybe you're just not meant to see these things. But there's a man walking past in a reflection. It's impossible. It's not real. People are being conned. and we're just letting them. Yet there's 50,000 homeless people in California that are sleeping in tents along Skid Row, just over the hill from where Hollywood is. And we're spending all this money on space. It's just lunacy, you know? Makes me really angry. And
you only got their word for it, though, that they are spending this amount of money. Because my horror is the same. That you could feed the world, educate everybody properly. You could do so many things with that money that they've got. But I mean, they're only telling you they're spending this money. I mean, you already know that, like, NASA Bollywoody thing is already set up. It's already set up, isn't it?
It's sickening.
But I mean, maybe the money's not real. Maybe the money's to make you think that there's all these trillions being spent, but it's not. No, they're giving it to the military instead.
Well, they're definitely filtering it somewhere instead, because
or to CERN or
even
HARP.
the numbers that they tell us, you know, like what it costs to build a rocket, what it costs to ship the astronauts in the rocket. And then you see that, you know, my husband works for Homeland Security. Okay. It's not a conspiracy or anything, people. You know, I used to work on a cruise ship, and at that time he was stamping passports in a passport, you know, when you go in, you know, when it's a pre-clearance for the United States, and we struck up a conversation, and that's how we met. He does a different job now, but that's how we met. So I've lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? What was
Homeland Security.
Yeah, Homeland Security. It's just, I'm so sorry. I'm in menopause. It's a total excuse. I have no shame. Here today.
It was just about, you were talking about your husband.
I know, but I wanted to mention something about Homeland Security and the money, and it was a point I had, and I totally went out of my head, because I said that because my husband works there, and you know, right away, people are going to think right away that I'm a shill or a paid agent, and it just sense, and because then they fight with that agent, government shill. I hate the Mace that we don't get to know of him, that I do know about as being a Masons that I do know in the Green or the Blue Lodge. They're beautiful, wonderful people. I don't have a bad thing to say about them. I could, when they make such a beautiful prayer to the Jesus Christ our Lord for a dinner that we're going to have, you know, because a few times a year I do join them for certain events, and I know their wives, and they're just normal people like us. If I once asked my husband if they ever approach you and say, okay, we want to raise you up and give you a 33 degree, but now you're going to be really enlightened and find out the true nature of what we do here, and we're actually worshiping Satan, and you know, he would just punch them all in the face and leave, basically. Like, so that's never going to be in our lives. But I do know, I'm pretty sure that there are an element to it that maybe the Blue Lodge and people like my husband are the useful idiots, and they're, you know, most of them are never going to achieve and know and be enlightened to the purpose of what they're really doing or whatever. And I don't even care about it. But it's NASA and their budget, and it's really gone. I can't remember what the point I was going to make about the money that they're using. And
well, I said it before, but one of the first videos I saw of you, when you made them, you were going, I want my money back.
Yeah, I do. All the tax money. Can you imagine? They'd all owe us so much for all these years, 19 years of all this nonsense of funding just this, that, you know, the space station. But how about the fake moon landings? How about all that money? That was all taxpayers' money too. This whole thing, since this did by us, you know, can you imagine how much would bankrupt the country if they had to pay it back to be convicted of fraud? Of course, it's never going to happen. They're never going to be convicted of fraud. But it's a nice thought to think, you know, that they would be put on trial.
I think if you stop NASA, it's going to actually break a lot of the governments up, really, because Most countries have, well, a lot of countries have a space program, including us, and it's all a lie. So if you bring that down, you bring the governments down, I think.
Sure, they're all in cahoots. It's all a big shit. I think that war, you know, the Cold War is really going on still with
That's
Russia.
rubbish.
Even though
There's
we've got
none
this
of that going on.
relationship to send astronauts, our people over there. Don't you think UN is really like me? But they will use that against us when the time comes, you know, and blame them. But I don't believe it. You know, when you see those photographs of you know, you see Clinton sitting next to the former leader of North Korea, like Kim Jong Un's dad. You see that photograph, you know, and other people in politics, and they're all sitting there together, taking a photograph together, practically holding hands, singing "Kumbaya." You have to know that it's not all what they're trying to tell us, that there's, you know, all these bad relationships, and you know, they could
They're all,
nuke us.
nearly if anybody who's got HARP, they're in on it together.
Absolutely. Oh yes, for sure. You know, it's all just sickening and smoke and mirrors, and a huge distraction to have the space station and just all those events they do. Oh my goodness, with all those schools and all those kids, you know. And
I know, it's horrible.
there was you know, there was just recently a new changeover. We've got some leaders, some have been on for a while, that have done a lot of spacewalks. So I'm, you know, while is to pull up footage from these particular astronauts to find, because sadly it's harder and harder with the new stuff. It's easier problems with the old stuff because technology is getting better and better, and it's going to get to the point where we're not going to be able to find anything because it'll get that good. So it's easier to go through the old footage, but because these new astronauts, there's 2 American astronauts are back after a long absence, I think there's probably all kinds of footage about them. So I want to get to know who they are more, because I don't know them. They're way from throwbacks. So it will be interesting. I wish they'd bring Peggy back because I enjoy watching her cry. You know, she gets so emotional about everything.
She was the only one that had normal hair.
Yeah. I don't know if they've ever stuck up her hair. I don't think I've ever really found, other than she had it super short, like almost like a little brush cut, which would naturally stand up anyways. I don't think her hair's ever really stuck up or stood up.
No.
But she's been in conjunction with other women where they're standing up, you know. So it's just, I think they finally just all agreed, okay, let's not focus on hair anymore. We won't do the hair like that. Women with longer hair will contain it in buns or whatever. You're just not going to have astronauts with long hair anymore. You know, we're just going to have short-haired astronauts or whatever.
But you and I don't know, don't you? In a way, it would be treated as like going up to the space station would be kind of military-like. Even if they weren't in the military, they'd be kind of military-like. And there's just nowhere they'd be going up there with long hair.
It would be so military. It would be over the ear, over the collar, because of safety and health. We can't have hair. I have long hair. I lose a lot of hair. You can't have that long hair all over the place, because it's it's going to accumulate, and it's going to just cause more problems. It's going to get inside of fans, of computers, and block, you know, heat up things that should be staying cool and whatever, all these things like we were talking about with all the wires everywhere. And there's no way you would have long hair like that. There's no way that you could have long shiny hair.
Hey, Bling Bling.
How
By
would you
now, after
shampoo it properly?
17
Like,
years, by now with 17 years, it should be almost like they can't even see any of it. It should be full littered, full of crap in that space station. And we're able to see anything except hair and skin and dust and dirt and fleck and
crumbs and all the floaty things that, you know, they're playing with their food and all of that. They had pizza the other day. They made that video. All the crumbs and crumbs and crumbs, and the lint balls and the dust bunnies and the hair and the pubic hairs and the dead skin and the toe jam and all that nasty stuff. This lunacy. We all live in our own houses and we all know what it takes to keep a clean house. You know that if you don't dust for some layer of dust land, what happens? You know, like their dust would eventually go somewhere and not just to their little intake suction, you know, the intake registers that they're saying, oh, we always look for our little missing things over here. This is where I cut my nails, into this little register. Oh, come on, that register, you know, well, we just clean it up. Here's this little vacuum and he just cleans up this little thing. And once a week on the weekends, we're all busy bees and we're all cleaning. That place is so big with 3 astronauts. You're telling me that 3 astronauts in a football field size space laboratory with multiple modules are going to be able to clean together when they're down to a little crew of 3 people. It's lunacy. You know, the bathroom, that tube. Yeah, they share the tube. They only have their own individual little, and the boys have their own little boy-shaped one, and the girls have a girl-shaped one.
I think the water thing always gets me. That's what my little video waiting to go, obviously, but YouTube's had a bit of a glitch today. But again, it's just like no matter what they do with water, always, you know, droplets of water are floating around that space station with all those wires there.
Of course.
And the thing's not earthed.
But that tube is so clean looking, so pristine looking. Have a dirt devil shot, like a dirt devil suction machine it's called I've actually had 2 in my life, and I haven't had to use it in this house that I have because I have all porcelain floors in this house. But in previous houses, I've had carpet, and I have 3 dogs that live inside with us. They've thrown up. The cat too. The old scene little Pomeranian pees, you know, on the carpet. She now pees on the porcelain. So I would use my green machine and suck up the pee. Over time, the plastic head on the green machine got very crystallized and very gross looking, as did the tube, because the urine crystallizes. Urine, if you've ever used a black light in your bathroom, turn off your lights, get a black light, and you're going to be mortified. Where you're thinking you're keeping a clean house, you're going to see it looks like someone just peed and just shot it all over the room. There's going to be pee on everything. You're going to be mortified because pee crystallizes. You can't just wipe it off with a cloth. You have to actually scrub things to clean urine off. So if you can imagine that, what that tube should look like, it should be all cloudy looking and used looking, but that thing looks like it's never had pee go through it because it hasn't.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. No one thinks about
Do you think
this
that
stuff.
they give something to the astronauts so that they actually believe that they're doing it?
I just think
So they're like hypnotized and they actually believe what they're doing.
Well, I think they pick the ones from the short bus. You know, maybe they pick people that have, like Hori said this, and it made a lot of sense. Maybe they pick people that have some kind of shady past or something, and you know, they're, instead of going to prison or being exposed for things that could be embarrassing or whatever, they, even though they've applied to be an ass chance at it, they pick the ones that have the least likely to succeed because they all seem like they are mentally challenged. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I mean, in my most recent video, I attached that clip. I'm sorry, but that astronaut, that Japanese astronaut, stood there and read something to tell him he had to just stand still and float, because they were, you know, they were changing the orbit or something on the space station, and it was causing them to move faster than the space station. So they're all amazed that they're all going to be able to float backwards. I mean, I wasn't thrilled. Like, it wasn't like, ooh, like, it was just some more nonsense that they were showing. But the Japanese guy read aloud the song, stand still. Okay, standing.
I saw it.
Hands, and then he floated. Like,
I saw it in his face, him like looking at it and going, I should, carry on. I've got to carry on. Oh. That's what his face.
If you were
That's what he's saying.
watching that, you would think you're watching soft porn. You're listening to his overreaction. This guy's floating all day on that thing. Why would that be so exciting that he'd be going, woo, woo? Like, I'm sorry, but you do that all day. Why is that so exciting that all of a sudden you're floating in a different direction? Like, goodness, like I was embarrassed to watch that. It was awkward to watch that. And then the Russian guy, he has that look of he's not intelligent looking. You can tell if someone's got some intelligence by looking at them. And this gentleman, he just has this dumb smile on his face, and it just gives me that feeling. Like I think a lot of this, we're very intuitive people, and we know when we're being lied to and fed a bunch of BS.
Hey,
And this
Bling
is what's
Bling,
happening.
listen. They're in the most dangerous place that you could ever be, with wires sticking out everywhere, right? With water droplets in a place that's not earthed, and they're going, ha 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 ha. They're laughing.
Died any
Just
second.
laughing at everything.
Any second. And let's design the space station in such a way that to change a simple little part, we go on a spacewalk for that. You would think they would minimize spacewalks as much as possible because it's so dangerous. I mean, the latest spacewalk, there was a seal leak. They were hours because it wasn't passing the inspections, right? There was some kind of a leak in the suit. And I was hoping that we were actually going to have our first space accident, but no such luck. They fixed the suit and they did the spacewalk. But to go and change some stupid little part, like the lunacy, you would never have built it like that, to make somebody go outside, to put their lives in such jeopardy, to change out, unscrew something and screw something else in. And they're always carrying those stupid little sheepskin lined bags. It's interesting that they use sheepskin lined bags. I wonder what that is. Like, somehow maybe it doesn't move around in the water as much because the sheepskin is kind of like rigid, and it's short enough of a pile that it's not like floating around, but if it was just a plain old bag, like a tote bag without any kind of a reinforced lining, that wouldn't be able to be in water without looking like it was in water. Do you know what I'm saying? So there must be
those
sheepskin
bag
lined.
They make me laugh. Whenever they're outside with a bag, all they do is spend the whole time arguing with the bags.
They just hold the damn bag. You just see the bag.
Get away, constantly. Bag. Get away, bag. Bag. Get away. Get away, bag. Oh, the bag. Get away, bag. It's just like, it's embarrassing. And when they're outside, they don't do anything. They never do anything.
It's lunacy. And on top of that, what really does irk me a lot, if any of this was real, think about it. And you have dreamt your whole life that you want to be an astronaut, and you finally get your chance, and you get picked to go to the space station, and they finally get you in the suit, and they send you out the door. What, in a real world, what would that first couple of minutes be like? What would you think a person's reaction would be like when they finally get pushed out the door and they get to look at the Earth outside in space? You would think there would be some emotion in their voice. They might say, "Give me a moment." Maybe they'd tear up. Maybe their voice would get thick because they're kind of.
Don't you think they'd be a bit scared saying, as well?
Oh my God, this is
Bling Bling.
The most amazing thing.
So you think they'd be a bit scared as well?
They never even look. They just get right to work. It's impossible. Your heart would be pounding and you'd be breathless. And they're
it'd be the worst roller coaster ride you ever went on.
Everything's very calm and very normal. Your heart would be pounding out of your chest. No amount of pool training could possibly get you prepared to get shut out the door into the definitely picked out that and you live in the dream you've always wanted to do to take it in. If they did it right, they would give like to make it look more. They would give the astronaut that couple of minutes to look around and say a bunch of stuff. Of course, it'll be fake, you know, but it would be more believable. Send them out the door, and then right away they start finding where they have to do, or they do their checks on each other first, and then they move off to the areas.
Bling
you know,
bling.
it's always the same. Always the same. If you watch
Bling bling. Bling bling. When your camera's off, the signal's better.
Okay, I'll turn it off.
Yeah, turn your camera off for a bit because it keeps dipping in and out a bit, and your voice is going up and down a bit. Yeah.
Oh,
Carry on then. Carry
better?
on. Yeah, keep talking now.
Okay. All right. I don't know what I was saying now. No,
How
just you would think
ridiculous.
to be more realistic that NASA would be smart enough to give their employees a couple of minutes to have an emotional moment of their first spacewalk, being out in the vacuum of space, looking at the globe of the beautiful Earth rotating beneath them, that they would give them a couple of minutes to react emotionally and say something. It just, to me,
Yeah, because they'd be scared.
well, and they would be overwhelmed. You would have an overwhelming moment. You are in the vacuum of space. You are living your dream. Not now. Okay, space suit checks. Okay, next thing we're going now. All right, workstation. Never ever have ever heard an astronaut make any kind of an utterance to say, "Oh my God, this is unbelievable. I'm doing it. I'm in space. Oh my God. If you could just see this with emotion and tears and, nothing. I just can't believe that. That irks me that they don't even fake that. I want them to fake that because they're idiots for not faking it. At least fake that, make it more realistic to what would actually happen. I don't care what kind of a professional you are. Only 500 people have done that. Of the billions of people in the earth, only 500 people have had that experience. They say that they've gone there. It would be a moment for every one of them on their first spacewalk to take it in. But never happened. It's so wow, it's been amazing. It's cool. It's so amazing. You hear them afterwards talking, when they get interviewed on an event and oh, what was it like? Oh, it was amazing. Like, I'm so sick of hearing that same, verbiage all the time. It just falls flat. They're terrible actors.
Oh, and that guy just goes out there with a selfie stick taking like video of himself. Hey, I'm so cool. I'm so wonderful. Look at me. I just don't think that would be in your mind at all.
No, it wouldn't. You definitely would, having a oh my God moment. And if you're saying that you wouldn't, then you're not being honest with yourself, because as human beings, we usually get moved by things that are pretty freaking spectacular. That would be probably the most spectacular event you could ever experience in your life, over having a baby, over getting married, over anything else. To be out there, if it was real, and we know it's not. Sadly, they're just fake, and they're just, like I said, they do such a poor job of faking it. I'd rather see them do something more convincing than what they do, but people believe it anyways. Yet they never have a thought in their head to question anything. Like, oh, that's kind of weird. Never. These people just firmly believe it. And we're a moron for saying that it's not real, and we're a moron because can't you see it? It's up there. I passed by my house yesterday, but I missed it. But I got more chances. I think the 11th or the 12th, and then the 14th. Going by my house again. And I know that it's a space station. I've seen too many photographs of amateur photographers that the shape has changed. It's not
Well,
the same
you and I know, don't you, Bling Bling, that they're only a few miles up in the sky.
Absolutely. They're not. We would never
I mean,
see
on the
a
globe,
football
right?
field length of a football field 250 miles above the Earth.
They can show
you.
They can show you the ball, They can even show you when the sun's coming up, the clouds on the edge of the ball. But the rest of it's in the dark. There's no light, no nothing. It's just black. But they can show you the clouds on the as the ball's lighting up from the sun. They can show you clouds at that bit where the light is. You think, oh my goodness, it's just ridiculous.
Well,
Absolutely ridiculous.
Is sometimes when I'm watching footage of them doing a spacewalk and showing the Earth below that they're showing would tell me that all they would, if it was really true, all they'd have to do is pan the camera up and you'd be able to see the whole ball. So there's no way that you could be 250 miles above this Earth, the size that they say it is, and see
You're breaking up a little bit again.
Many times on a spacewalk, it appears to me that if they had just moved the camera up, you would see, because I see different angles from the darn thing. I'm sorry, I don't know why that's happening.
It's all right, came back now. They probably don't like us
Wi-Fi
talking
now and
about
see if
it,
that
do
works
they?
better.
They probably don't like us work.
Any better? I Wi-Fi. Did that make it better or worse?
Say a bit more.
Better or worse? Up or down? Check.
That's better.
One.
Right.
Okay.
That's better.
Right. Yeah. So I'm on the Wi-Fi, and hopefully, I can tell if it starts spinning next to it. If I'm not transmitting, I think I can tell on my end.
Yeah, that's better. Bling Bling.
All right. Technology, right? It's supposed to be able to communicate with the space station, but I can't even get a decent Wi-Fi signal inside of my house. I drive down the dirt road because I live in the country, and I lose signal. My GPS stops working quite often when I'm trying to find an address that I don't know in the country where I'm going. But they can communicate all around the Earth with the space station, and they always are able to do a long spacewalk with very short little moments where it goes to a little blue screen and then it comes back again. It doesn't happen where, oh, we've lost signal. It's going to be 2 hours before we'll get it back. Never happens. Never. But on the interviews, on the events, they always do it very short and say, okay, that's the amount of time we have before we're going to lose the signal. I've heard that many times them say that. You know, what's the difference that they have to have a very short window of talking time on an event, yet they can do like 8 hours for a spacewalk? How do you explain that?
I don't know. This thing when they go round, what would it be living like somewhere which goes round and round the globe 17 odd times a day, round and round and round and round? You'd never know if you were coming or going, would you?
Well, because they say they don't have any up or down, feeling in their head. That they say they don't feel, there's no atmosphere, so they don't have the feeling of movement. So they explain it all away with all the typical lies that they've come up with. Of course, it works so well for them, right? There's no atmosphere, so you don't feel anything. You don't feel that you're going 17,500 miles an hour. You're able to dock together. The Soyuz and the space station are easily able to dock together, both traveling at 17,500 miles an hour with no problem, because, again, there's no resistance. It's ludicrous. It's bollocks. I think that's how you say it in the UK, right? I mean, it's just...
It is, though.
Yeah,
it's just ridiculous. The thing is, though, that maybe if you only watched it once, maybe you'd think, oh, I'm not sure there. Yeah, it looks... But people like you and me, we get looking at the video again and again and again and again and again. And sometimes you blow it up and you're just doing all these things. And so you just see it and you're looking at it and
well, that's the only way that if you're going to find the mistakes is by spending the time looking at it. If you're just like a normal, regular person, that just living in their little world and thinking that it's real, and they watch an event for 20 minutes at face value, they're going to be totally satisfied that it's real and argue with you later saying you're crazy. They have events live all the time on the space station. Don't you watch them? It's like, heck yeah, I watch them. I spent hours watching a 20-minute event that you just watched for 20 minutes and went on to watch the makeup tutorial next. Well, I spent 3 hours watching this nonsense and broke it down and found a problem. And sometimes I have to watch the whole darn thing before I find a problem at the end, which really ticks me off when that happens.
Bling Bling, Houston, there really is a problem.
Yeah, there is. But I'm just hoping that, you know, eventually they're going to change things up or try something new, and we'll have something else
But
to be
they
able
have
to
tried, haven't they,
analyze.
with that virtual reality stuff? You know, like, you know, there's that one with that guy who's pretending to pass something and put it down on a shelf. And then, you know, one of the ones I caught about you is where, the lady with short hair, what was her name again?
Peggy
What was her
Whitson?
name?
Peggy Whitson.
Peggy, that's it. Peggy, when she's got her M&M sweets. And you can see that the M&M isn't even in her hand.
It's not in her damn hand because it's not even there. It's another layer, you know, on this video, and her eyes look so weird. And that's another thing, they never zoom in close on their faces because their eyes are wearing those augmented contact lenses. And if they were to zoom in on their eyes, you would see that their pupils are going they're shaped like rectangles up and down. They're not round. They are like snake eyes. So they can't zoom into their eyes. I mean, there's so much proof that they're wearing those contacts, and others have made some excellent videos where the astronauts are standing together and one has a hat in his hand and he just made a movement with his hand, but the astronaut next to him took it as he was getting handed the hat, but he wasn't. So he made the pretend motion of taking a hat into his hand, moving it into his other hand, and then hanging it on the wall. But that's not what was supposed to happen. In that same video that day is when the Japanese astronaut floats by in the back and he has a joystick sticking out of his back. You know, I mean, which proves that they are wearing a body harness that they just, you know, are able to erase out of the footage so we don't see it.
Yeah, you can definitely see masses of footage with the wires.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's so many, and you know, I've never made them because other people made them already. There's no point in to be redundancy here, and I certainly appreciate those videos very much, and I often just watch them over and over again because you know NASA, they're very devious and they can be very convincing at times where I could watch some footage and really wonder how the heck they did it. And I think for a long time they used parabolic flight because it looks like there's no way that they could have done it any other way. And then that could make you like, whoa, that really does look real. And it can kind of shake you a little bit. So then you just need to go back to another video where you clearly see that they are on harnesses and wires and passing fake hats to each other and holding on to fake M&Ms and all the other stuff that just solidifies your resolve to know that this is a fake place. It's not real. It's never been real. It never will be real. It's never going to happen. They're just.
I never really thought about the bit you were talking about because quite often when they're not always, but when they're with an astronaut, they never show the bottom part of their legs, do they? Not really.
Very often. Not very often.
Floating through. Maybe even up to their waist. You don't see what's happening below, do you?
No, not often. The odd time, though, there have been. And I did make a video where they're all hugging each other. And then they just appear to be standing and often you see dirty socks on the bottom of their feet walking around. The whole foot.
No, and they always look like they've got a coat hanger. It always looks like a coat hanger stuck in the back of their t-shirt.
Well, there's something, and often they're wearing two t-shirts because I guess, again, trying to hide whatever the body harness, however it works. But they often have on two t-shirts. I've seen that plenty of times, and I've looked at hundreds and hundreds of videos, and I mean, it just, there's usually something. And I mean, I have footage now with stuff, but it's like I don't feel it's strong enough for flat earthers that know what's happening. Yeah, it's fine, it's great, it's enough. I don't need to keep convincing us, though. We already know that they're not there. But for regular folk, that's not enough for them to be able to see, because I've got new footage from the recent spacewalk of a very tiny reflection, because they have those darn mirrors on their arms on the spacesuits, and the guy was moving his arms around. So I was watching that very carefully, and I did see a reflection of a person that didn't belong there. And it's like, I'm not even going to bother to make a video about it because people won't see it. You know, it's small, but it's there. And like I said, I watched this with 10 times magnification. So sometimes that's what you have to do to be able to really see these details. And it's there. There is a person there. And they're very clear. Their head shape, their hair, their shirt, the whole thing.
You know what I think? I mean, I could be very wrong, because you say that there's somewhere in Russia that they go and do the training, but some of this stuff makes me just feel that they're 747 flying around.
Well, for a long time, NASA had these parabolic planes, but there was I don't know how many years ago that they said that they had gotten rid of all of their that type of training planes, because they did admit to using them for training. You know, that was brought out. It's very hard to hide like planes, you know, like that they're using for training. Everything has to be kind of mainstream for training and whatnot. So I'm pretty sure that I read that they got rid of their parabolic flight training. But I mean, what I would love to see is, and I think Jeranism talked about this too, was I'd like to see them train in a vacuum. I'd like to see that. Well, how come they don't do that? You know?
I've seen a few of them.
Why.
They're not bouncing all over the place. They're just standing in there. They're just standing in there, and
they wouldn't be though.
They're not
bouncing. They wouldn't bounce though, because they're not falling around the Earth. If they're inside of a, you know,
yeah, but you're taking that gravity's real, and gravity isn't real. There is no gravity. So, and on the moon there isn't anyway. There's even less, or there's only a little tiny bit. So they always say, when you listen to them, that that's supposed to resemble exactly what's on the moon. So it would be the same as being on the moon.
But not the floating part though, Karen. In the vacuum, all they would have is the vacuum where they would puff out like a marshmallow. But it wouldn't cause them to.
They're still in zero. Yeah, but they're in a vacuum, aren't they? Like
but it's not
the vacuum would be the
it's not the vacuum causing them to float. It's them saying that they're falling around the Earth. That's causing them to float. They always say that the space station has pretty much the same amount of gravity that Earth does, but they say because they're falling around this globe that it causes them to float up. And that's why it replicates with the parabolic flight, because they fly it up into the air and then they tip over and they free fall. They free fall for like, I think 48 seconds. And that causes them to rise up. And there's lots of videos of people in private planes. And I've had the experience myself. I was on a private plane with a friend of mine with my kids years ago. And all of a sudden he proclaims, "Hey guys, want to know what an astronaut feels like?" And before I even could question what he meant, he stalled the plane and we started falling out of the sky. And it was a horrible feeling. You know, it felt like my guts had floated up to my chest, and I could feel myself coming up in my seat, even though my seatbelt was on. And my kids' eyes got really big and got really scared. And, you know, it was a horrible experience. But I mean, that's what happens when you're falling out of the sky and inside of an airplane. You will rise up. That's what happens. So that can't happen in a vacuum chamber per se. They're just going to get puffy. Just the suction of the vacuum is going to pull. It's going to pull everything, and it's going to pull what you're wearing and cause it to puff out. But the vacuum is so powerful that they say in space, I just don't believe they have any technology that could survive that. Just like they sent the Tesla to space, like all of the glass didn't break on the car, and the tires didn't shatter from the cold environment, plus the vacuum. Everything looks pristine and shiny and fine, just off floating, going to wherever the heck it went. You know, it's lunacy. And people say that's real, and they argue we're all crazy because we don't believe that there's a Tesla freaking in infinite space right now on that footage that they showed us.
I always think it's really strange with the water or any liquids they have and how they perform.
But that,
like for us to see,
but
wouldn't
balls that they do? Oh, that's all just fake.
Yeah, but what about our bodies? Our bodies would then react slightly differently, wouldn't they? They'd feel a slight wobble, wouldn't they? Sometimes, because if water's doing it, we're made up of water.
Sure.
I don't
believe that they could have something like that in a vacuum of space, falling around the earth in this huge, perfect vacuum and not be physically affected to the point where they would just get sick and die. But they can stay for 6 months on that thing or longer and have no problem, you know. That's just lunacy, you know. And then they come back to earth and they do all these tests, and normally they're fine. And then the odd time you'll say, well, there was some eyesight problems, you know. And but you know, it's so funny, like as we age we do get eyesight problems. Our eyes start to fail, you know. Certainly my eyes aren't anywhere close to the way they were when I was a child, you know. So eye changes, that's not real great proof to, you know, oh, we were there because we got eyesight changes. How about the Japanese astronaut that said he grew 2.5 inches in the first couple of weeks of being on the space station? Of course, he made a mistake and then had to retract it, but he looked like such an idiot again. I'm saying, like, how could he not do a simple conversion? And they supposed to train in metric. I don't know why they even say inches. It's the metric system is superior as far as doing measurements. And here he is saying he's grown 2.5 inches. I thought that was so funny. Then he was he tweeted it, and then he had to kind of fix it, and it looked very foolish because he made a big story about it. Because at first everyone believed him, but he was worried that he couldn't get back into the Soyuz to go home. He wouldn't fit. He'd be stuck
What
there
about,
forever.
did you see the one where the space station's leaving them behind and that's why they float backwards?
Yes, yeah, I did that one, and that's when I said that they look so ridiculous talking about it and doing it, and they just don't look like intelligent, highly educated astronauts. And just expect people that are this
Oh, is that on
intelligent.
your video then? Because I've watched
Yeah,
so many videos again this
yeah,
last couple of days.
that's my
Cool.
video. And
That's where I saw it.
you know,
Yeah.
I just don't believe that you could get personalities like they have, so jovial, so extroverted, and be so highly educated. Normally, people are so smart don't really have the personality. You know, they're introverts. They're just brainiacs. They like to do their science, and they're more quiet, and they don't have a great personality. Do you know what I'm saying? But yet somehow they always have not only highly educated astronauts, but they're just gregarious and they're funny, and they can talk and talk, and they have no problem communicating. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up to all these astronauts to be just have the perfect outgoing personalities plus to be so darn smart. Yet Peggy Whitson doesn't even know how to say Greenwich Mean Time. She says Greenwich Mean Time. Like, how can you?
She says what? She
She
says
She says Greenwich Mean Time instead of Greenwich Mean Time.
oh my goodness.
Like, really? How could you make that mistake? That's the time that you use every day on station, yet you don't know how to say it? I couldn't believe it when I heard her say that. I was so shocked. It's such a simple thing, yet she doesn't know how to pronounce it. They just don't speak they speak in very plain language. They're not speaking like they're highly educated, using more complicated words, you know, of higher level of intelligence, where you're like, whoa, I don't even know what they just said, let me look that up. Like, they never do that. They never use any verbiage that's not understandable. Did you ever notice that? They're just very plain speaking people and making everything so simple, yet this was to be so intelligent. It makes no sense. Doesn't add up.
Well,
Doesn't
they've
pass
got
the
to be
smell
like that
test.
because, as you say, they're watching television screens and being told what to say and do all the time.
Absolutely. Well, proof with the Japanese guy reading, and you can see when he's in the video where he's reading and he's speaking in his language, but his eyes are tracking something. Well, the words of the his cue cards in front of him. He's reading the speech that was written out for him to say. That he's not able to speak as an experienced, educated person, his own thoughts, his own experience, without having a script. Highly suspect. Like, why would they have a pre-prepared speech, you know, send up to this guy from his country to say, okay, this is what you need to say, instead of just having him, who is, you know, on the station with the other astronauts, just free speaking and saying what, comes into their head. But that guy had to read his. He's highly suspect, and just not having the right answers to questions, not knowing, turning the mics off, looking at each other, looking stupefied, not really knowing it. How about Mike Mazzino and Rick Pettit sitting together when they were doing the mailbag show, and someone had sent a question? What do you see when you look out into the blackness of space? And Mike and Rick both look at each other, and they're both quiet, and there's an awkward pause. And then Rick says, we see stars. And then Mike goes, we see stars. Fallon, no. It's proof. They didn't know what to say. One was waiting for the other to say, are we going to say that we see stars or not? Because they weren't sure if they should say it. Okay, you're going outside, Fallon. So it's like, if you're awake, you're gonna see this stuff, and you're gonna realize that you're being conned. But if you're sleeping, you're just gonna believe it all and think that it's all great. And they're gonna think that people like us are all mentally challenged, and we shouldn't breed, and we should kill ourselves, because I think someone just said that to me yesterday, that I should not breed, not procreate, and I should kill myself in the order that I would prefer.
Yeah, I've had a few of those that they say, please don't breed. And you think, if only they knew how old I was. I've got grandchildren. Too late.
Yeah. In fact, I have two sons that are both, they know that the space station is fake. And the oldest is a flat earther. He's a truther. And sadly, he's not here, or he would have been on this hangout. And the other one is pretty much 90% or more there as flat earth. He's, because he hasn't jumped into the research like my other son did. So if he did, he would be full on in it as well. So it's just when you have the open mind and you read and look and see, you ask the questions, you do your own research, do your own experiments, you come to the conclusion that you have been conned and had and made a fool of and taken advantage of and been lied to your whole life. And you've just gotten nothing but propaganda shoved down your throat from everything that we experience every day in our lives, not just the space station, not just everything. There isn't any path that
everything is a lie.
Mm-hmm. Sad but true. And that's...
Hey, Bling Bling. Bling Bling. I'm hoping I've just given the link out to Jon The Morgile. He's going to pop on for a little bit.
I would love him to come on. I love him.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic.
He was in our chat room just a minute ago, so I've texted you the link, Jon The Morgile.
Oh, Jon, join us. I missed you for so long, and you were going to write a book, and I want to know what happened with that. And I'm a huge advocate for Jon. He's so intelligent. He's so well spoken. He knows his stuff. I really hope he joins us.
You've not had the privilege of a hangout with him yet.
Oh, well, this is exciting. It's been exciting lately. You've had some amazing people on, Crow 777, and twice now you've had Russian vids on. Sadly, I guess I've heard that his channel is gone again. So it's, that he's speaking the truth when they keep shutting him down. And pretty soon they're going to come after us too. There's no question about it.
So I'm just having a difficulty giving him the link. I can say it out loud. Jon, I don't use Skype. I use Hangouts. Say it out loud,
Karen. If we get...
Yeah, I use Hangouts. Sniped. I use Facebook Messenger, or I suppose I can add him direct from the panel. Maybe I'll try that.
All right.
Because he's been on before. Oh, if I just remember his... I don't know what his email is. Oh, it's put in this one.
Yeah, no, Jon's great. He's done some great research. He makes thought-provoking videos. He really puts his whole heart and soul into flat earth, and now that he's back on the panel with Globebusters, it's been just so wonderful having him back. Listening to Uru and Bob and Jon and Jaron every Sunday at 3:00 is my look forward to every Sunday. I never miss the show. It's what's really educated me more than anything else with flat Earth is listening to Globebusters, and I often link Globebusters on replies to my haters on my channel because I tell them, look, you need to have an open mind. If you want to learn what we know, then you need to join us on Globebusters and listen.
So I've just added you off the panel, Jon.
Is he in the room?
Yeah, he was in the chat room just a minute ago, but I've added him directly off the panel. So it should come to him in an email.
Okay. Yeah,
I just don't
isn't
do Skype. I don't do Skype. I don't know what it is. But,
well, it's nothing that dramatic, but you should get it at some point just for in the event
no,
that
I've
things
got
like
it.
this
I just
happen.
don't use it.
Ah. Yeah, you'd have to get a little briefing on how it works. So
No, I know how it works. I just don't like it. I just
didn't
don't
like
use
it
it.
either, but I put it back on so I could talk with Hori from the Hori Sheet Show. We chat sometimes. He's so wonderful. He's so talented too with that. I don't know if you've ever seen him do the poi, but you need to have him on again too. He's so great. Such a thought-provoking.
Yeah, he was on the other day.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I think I was watching. Yeah, I hope Jon can get you found his email?
Yeah, I've added him on the panel.
He's not in the room with us yet.
No, he's not yet with us. He said do it on Skype, but I don't use Skype. I've never talked to him on Skype before.
Well, hopefully Jon will join us
We are
momentarily.
waiting. We are waiting.
We are anxiously waiting.
We are waiting
For Jon The Morgile.
He says, I'm coming on. Hold on, hun.
Fantastic. That's exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
How's everyone in the chat room doing?
I think they're doing good. I think they're happy that Jon The Morgile's coming on. Yeah, I love Jon The Morgile. He's been a good friend, and yeah, we message each other sometimes.
I've had a couple, but nothing much really with him. I've just supported him and told him in messages on his channel that I was really excited to know that he was getting a book coming together.
Hey!
Hello. Hey.
Oh,
There he is.
Jon, I am so happy to finally talk to you in person. You are one of my heroes in Flat Earth.
Oh, well, thanks. That's very kind of you.
How is the book
You get
coming?
Heroes welcome, Jon.
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of a screwy story, but it's done. And yeah, like instead of publishing it like in a paper or an ebook thing, I've been planning to just do it as an audiobook on my YouTube channel. And after I had decided to do that, I got 2 community guideline strikes. And so I wasn't able to post or do live streams on my main channel. And so I was kind of thinking, well, maybe I'll do it on my backup channel. But then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I'm able to post videos again on my main channel. But literally last week, my external hard drive crapped out on me. And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's got all my stuff on there. That's where I back up everything. But so I went to go look at my book, and I don't know, the last 40 or 50 pages are gone on like my home, like my main hard drive. And so that also means like a bunch of artwork. Well, the artwork that I did no, that's on my external too. So I'm going to have to like redo the last 50 pages and go back through like as a 200-page thing and figure out, what am I going to go in and change? And instead of doing all that, I'm just going to go ahead and do it as is and try to finish up the last 40 or 50 pages, as best as I can. But I spent a lot of time on it, a lot longer than I had anticipated. So there's a ton of good stuff that's still in there. But yeah, I was really bummed. This just happened actually, you guys are the first one I've told about this. This happened like last week or so. External, and actually I've left it unplugged for like days and days. I'm gonna plug it back in right now. Maybe it's still on there. But the book's it's done. It probably it needs some editing and stuff done. Even the finished copy, like it was still the first draft, but now that my external hard drive crapped out on me, I can't even access it. I haven't read through the thing again, what I've got on my main hard drive, and that's sort of ass backwards. I mean, granted, because like normally I back up my stuff on my external, but somewhere along the line I was saving the changes that I was doing, over the months onto my backup, onto my external, and didn't even realize it, right? So I went to go open up the book, I don't know, a week or 10 days ago on my regular hard drive. And I'm like, this is only 160 or whatever pages. So I'm like, oh, crap, I can't get it off my external. So I don't know. Maybe the external is recoverable, but at the end of the day, the majority of the work's in there. I don't even know how bad the damage is, honestly, because I went back through and did a reread of it a couple times and just made some little silly changes. And we're talking over months. It might be 40 hours worth of stuff.
Wow.
But yeah, the bulk of it's still there. So
well, we're looking
yeah.
forward to reading it. I'm looking forward to reading it very much.
That's very frustrating for you, I must say, when you've got this far.
You were so quiet on Globebusters on Sunday, so you didn't even get a chance to say that about your
What's
book.
that?
You were so quiet on Globebusters on Sunday.
Was I?
Yeah, you didn't talk much. I'm like, how come John's so quiet?
Yeah, but no, that's like the latest thing in my little string of unfortunate events. First, it was like, because I hadn't done any videos for a long time, and then I came back because I got an apartment and got my internet hooked up, and I did a video and did a live stream, and then within a couple of days, I got bullying and harassment. I think it's the same thing that Jaren got, the same stuff that Russian Vids got, where they basically pick, like, I don't even like to say the words, but like the Boston bombing or like 9/11, like different videos where we just, we're stating our opinion. Sure. And then somebody out there in YouTube land, files a complaint on us saying that we're, being bullies and harassing people. And YouTube just sort of conforms, agrees and sides with them. And they give you a chance to appeal it, but you literally get like one sentence for your appeal description. And so that happened, and then my hard drive went out. But luckily, the silver lining is, and I just realized this the other day, that I can actually post videos to my main channel again for some reason. I don't know why. So I'm not gonna complain about it.
No.
So so I think what I'm going to end up doing is just take my audiobook and release it. Take my book and release it as an audiobook on my channel, maybe a chapter at a time or something, and see how it goes. Just because
that's a great idea to hear you.
Yeah, it's pretty costly to do publishing, and maybe down the road or something I'll do like an ebook or a hardback book. But I'd rather just get the information out there to people the easiest way I know how. It's already written. And like I said, maybe I could put it together as an ebook or something and sell it, but I'd rather just give it away for free to people on YouTube,
Well, I'd rather listen to you narrate it anyways than read it myself.
Oh, well, thank you.
I think it's great. Do it fast because I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I can do it whenever.
You're just so intelligent, Jon. You've given so much to Flat Earth, and I've really noticed that. So you're one of my Flat Earth heroes. And
well, thanks. Thanks. Yeah, that's very kind of you. I appreciate that. And hopefully it'll be good. I think it'll be okay. And if you follow my work for a while, it's probably going to be a lot of stuff that you're already familiar with, maybe some new stuff. But I spent a lot of time on this, and it's been a couple years in the running. And even if I spend 4 hours a week or 10 hours a month on the thing over a couple years, I've put a lot of time and effort into it. And I honestly just don't know how much of it is lost in the backup situation. But maybe I can retrieve the stuff off my external. But hey, it's all up here in the noggin anyway. So
that's true. You'll remember it. Maybe you'll even rewrite it better.
Maybe.
Possible.
Hey, Jon.
Yeah.
Hey, Jon. We love you too. Sun and Moon loves you too.
Oh, you guys are very sweet. Thank you. I was listening to the show before I hopped on, and y'all were talking about the Tesla orbiting And I really hadn't paid much attention to it, but we were watching it. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I was watching Archive of Jeranism Raw from pretty recent, and I noticed that there was like a bunch of dust particles in the air, like around the car. And I'm like, well, how does that work? Right? Because it's supposed to be, space is supposed to be a vacuum, right, with no sort of stuff in it. So the fact that you see little dust particles floating around was kind of funny. That was something that I just noticed. I don't know if anyone else had picked up on that.
No, I'm gonna rewatch it and look for it. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious. I mean, I was like, I wonder how they explain that. But something that you were mentioning, you know, about like, for example, the tires. People claiming that, oh, well, you know, tires would survive in space anyway, and I think that's ridiculous. You know, Bob played some clips of giant like steel tankers, you know, pressurized tankers with a pretty powerful, but nothing like space is supposed to be, a pretty powerful vacuum, and just instantly crushes the thing. And you know, things are designed, you know, pressurized things are designed to cope with high pressure inside, and then you always have the ambient 14.7 pounds per square inch of barometric atmospheric pressure outside of that. And when you take away that barometric pressure outside, that's a whole different ball game than adding pressure to the inside of it. And so, like, if a tire's designed to withstand, you know, suggested 40 psi inside or whatever, you know, sure, you can double that on the inside, and it's not going to like pop necessarily. But if you take away all of that ambient barometric pressure away from what's pushing in all directions on the outside of it, that things are not designed to withstand that. So like the tanker cars that Bob showed, that they evacuated all the air from the inside. What happens is the barometric pressure, the fluid of the atmosphere, is literally crushing it. So it's not like you're sucking it and it's the suction that's crushing it. It's actually the barometric pressure outside that's crushing it. So that's a really, really super amount of pressure. I mean, it's a lot of pressure. And so when you take away that ambient barometric pressure that everything's sort of designed to work in, you've got problems that, frankly, I don't think things like spacesuits or even the ISS itself could withstand. Now, I believe what they say with rockets and the ISS is that they've got these giant, like, rings of, I want to say titanium or some really, really super strong metal, and they'll take these rings of titanium and stack one on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. And so that's how they get the really super strong rockets and structure of, you know, spacecraft and stuff. But I don't know. It just seems like the whole idea of just a regular Tesla car being put into space, or, you know, space suits that supposedly withstand the vacuum without exploding. And, you know, honestly, I don't think that this idea of the vacuum of space really is a thing. I mean, who knows? Maybe it is. But I certainly know for sure that what they're claiming to do up there in spacesuits and in little rocket ships, I just don't see it being possible, because everything that we do, you know, here on the ground in reality, we do it within the barometric pressure, 14.7 pounds on every single square inch of everything pushing in. And so, you know, the spacesuits, in my opinion, should expand greatly and then explode. I don't care how well they say they engineer them. And then you've got on, like, to take this even further, in space, supposedly you're going through temperature flux, so it can be super, super, super cold, or it can be super, super hot, like in the thermosphere where the ISS is supposed to be. You know, they say it's just astronomically hot. But then they say, oh, well, you know, yeah, the little particles are hot, but they're so sparse that there's no convection transfer. So the heat's not being transferred at any sort of rate, and so you wouldn't notice it. So I don't know. when you're in direct sunlight and you're on the light side of the Earth in orbit, hypothetically, you would be a little bit warmer at least, or super, super hot, little particles hitting, barraging you, not very frequently. But then when you get in the dark side of the Earth, in the shade of the sun, it's going to be a whole hell of a lot colder. And so you've got this temperature flux, which is going to cause materials to expand and contract and expand and contract many, over a dozen times every day. And I just don't think that there's any materials that are known to humankind that can withstand these sorts of temperature differentials, temperature flux, not to mention, of course, the barometric pressure, lack thereof. And it just, when you see Elon Musk and SpaceX doing stunts like this with the Tesla, to me, it's just rubbing it in people's faces. It's just one more thing where they could pretty much do whatever they want, and people are going to believe it because, frankly, I believe that the majority of people just have no idea that these people are really just tricking us or tricking them to the degree that they are. But then you've got people who, I don't know, like globe earth trolls, who believe everything that NASA and what SpaceX tell them just because that's their role, that's what they do, but they're going to defend them no matter what. But yeah, I just see that sort of stunt as just a big, middle finger in the air to everybody, because they could do whatever they want. They could probably bake a cake in space and people would believe them.
Yeah, and ship it out to space, and it would stay in a beautiful 3-tier condition.
Right.
Why go to the expense of millions and millions of dollars if you can just ship up a Tesla with no problem? Why are we spending all this money on all this other expensive stuff when we could just shape the ISS, make it like cars, and send them out there, because nothing happens to it?
Right.
It's a contradiction for them to send a car there when they say they've had to construct the ISS in such a way to last and to not break apart and all the other things that they talk about. Yet the car is completely fine, not a problem. Nothing got damaged. Like I said, the windshield wasn't cracked, and the tires were fine, and the car itself was fine. The paint didn't come off, or nothing broke. And it's funny, they just took off their rear view mirror, though. Gee, that was a little bit odd, wasn't it? Like, maybe they were a bit worried we'd see a reflection or two. I would have loved to have eaten that part up myself, because I love reflection videos, but sadly they took away my fun.
Yeah, it looks like CGI to me, but
Totally.
maybe they took out the rear view mirror so they wouldn't, so that we wouldn't see the camera. I don't know, like the cameraman sitting on the back.
Yeah.
I don't know,
having a cigarette. Yeah.
Yeah, but did it look? It looks like CGI though, doesn't it?
Oh, totally. Oh, it's a cartoon. It's just like everything else that they show us. It has the same flavor. I think that if they were to show us some real footage of something, it would be so shocking at this point, because when we watch our own footage, our own experiments with our P900s over water, it always looks so much different than what they show us to be like real. It doesn't look anything like that. As if the Earth would have like pristine, beautiful blues in the ocean. I mean, whenever I lived in the Bahamas, and I'd fly in from on a plane, and at first it's very dark, and then you get closer and closer, and then you'd start to see how blue it was and pretty. But how come when they're up on the space station that the Bahamas water looks so blue, yet when I fly over on a plane it looks black? Makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, you've got the other thing too, like the old blue marble picture from, I think, the 1970s. You've got the really blue ocean and the white clouds and the green and sandy colored continents. But when you look at footage from the ISS or from this orbit, all you see is blue.
Yeah,
So this really, this brings up some important questions, because it makes a lot of sense to me that if the Earth was a ball, like they say, and you could go in orbit, you're not going to be able to see the continents. All you're going to see is just the reflective blue sky. And so it brings into question the old blue marble picture, and even the newer ones. That sort of thing just wouldn't be visible from
basically
space.
show you water, don't they? You just see water.
Right. Well, that makes sense why they would do that too. You can never really determine where, what you're looking at underneath the ISS. you can only ever see blue and maybe some coastlines. But for them to claim that you could actually see continents from that distance is ridiculous. But then, okay, so what if you were to take, I don't know, like some kind of high-powered laser device or something that would be visible from that altitude, you know, from where they are allegedly. If we knew exactly where they were at and we could see it in the live feed from like the ISS or whatever, then people could test whether that thing's really up there by, you know, shooting lasers up there and seeing if it shows up on the live stream, right? I mean, you would think something like that would be possible, but it seems to me that that's one good reason why they wouldn't go so far as to make their CG include the continents and stuff, because perhaps, you know, we could catch them like that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, John.
Yeah.
They have this figured out pretty good to con the world, you know, to make the sheep believe that they're up there. And it's just people like us that are inquisitive and are not led around by our noses that wait, I want proof. I question things. This doesn't look real to me. I want more proof. And sadly, there's not enough of us out there that are thinking this way. People are too busy watching TV, watching their TV shows, doing their jobs, and, you know, watching, you know, makeup tutorials on YouTube. And then they all of a sudden they hear about flat Earth and they're like, oh, really? There's people like that out there. And then they come to our channels and they watch one video on maybe the ISS and like, you're a retard. Well, kill yourself. Like, wow, you ever like delusional? Like, can't believe people like you exist. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I've had a few people, not many, but a few, because I've gotten pretty much every sort of insult and death threat you can imagine. But there's been a handful of people that have come back and like messaged me and apologized and said, you know, I'm sorry, you were right. And, you know, I get it. You know, yeah, this was like a couple of years ago, though, so it's not like, I don't know. But there are a few, but it's hard. I mean, it is hard to have the whole globe Earth mindset for your whole life, and then take a step back and look at it objectively and start to question what we believe. But I think it's even more so when you go around trashing flat earthers and being just really, you know, not civil and being rude and violent or vile or whatever, and then having to sort of eat some humble pie and apologize. So it's almost like, yeah, it's almost like the
get out of the globe head thinking. You've got to leave the globe behind.
Yeah, and Bling Bling, your audio is a little bit low. Karen, I can hear you pretty good. Can y'all hear me good?
Oh, I'm just using
Bling
my
Bling
smartphone.
turned up. I think what it is on the Hangout, she might sound a bit low, but she won't on the playback.
Oh, okay.
Well, I want
A little bit.
be able to hear me. Maybe I'll try to log into my laptop, which will be far superior.
You sound all right now.
Sound.
Yeah, if you're good on the live stream, that's fine. I'm just having to strain a little bit to hear you on this end. But as long as
I'll try to talk closer to my. Is that better, John? If I do this?
Yeah, that is actually a little bit better, and I can see the difference on my little volume indicator, whatever the hell that thing is. So yeah.
All right. I was actually having to give the dog some turkey so she wouldn't bark. I was just driving her. So I had put the phone down. I think that's why my volume, you couldn't hear me very well. She's satisfied now. She's not going to bark. So it's always difficult when you have small kids or you have pets in your house. You're trying to do a hangout and they're not cooperating the way you want them to.
Yeah. So
always the way. Hey John, can I ask you something? Have you watched any of Bling Bling? Have you watched any of Bling Bling's videos?
I have not. This is the first I've been introduced to Bling Bling, but I will definitely put it in my queue.
Well,
Bling Bling, do you want to just explain a little bit about yourself to John, what you do?
Well, I don't do flat Earth, but I do mention flat Earth in my videos. I'm not at your pay grade. You have far more knowledge.
You don't want to be at my pay grade, trust me.
But I try to stick to things that I feel that I have some good success with, and I have a very keen eye for detail, and it's kind of a gift. So I can spot out abnormalities in videos quite often. And so when I became flat in August of 2016, I had broken my leg and my ankle, so I was in a wheelchair and on the sofa for 3 months. And my son sent me my first flat Earth video, and it was a Mark Dubé video. And then I moved on to the clues, and I became like so fascinated. 8 months it took me for the journey to undo my indoctrination, because I am in my 50s. And then I thought, I was so angry. I wanted to do something to participate in this. I didn't want to just be on the outside. So I thought, well, I can start making my own videos. So I did. I started my channel, and I've grown now. I'm almost at 5,000 subs, and I've gotten to, know Bob, with the Glowbuster. I love Glowbusters. And I just pump out a lot of videos. I try to make one every couple of weeks, and it's usually just, I try to find reflections. That's really where I focus, but it's not always so easy, because they're getting better at faking this. So often now I'm going back to old school and old videos to find abnormalities and reflections that I can pull forward and say, look. And the latest video that I made is a video, and it is showing a man in a reflection. It's supposed to be the astronaut filming himself, and he's doing a tour of the station, and he's holding the camera. And yet they had blacked out the black screens on the laptops, so you could not see any reflections on laptops that were black, that should have had a light reflection hit them from the camera, from the light on the camera. So I knew that they were, fooling us with that. They completely avoided the mirrors that they had hanging in the station. Yet all of a sudden they got to one part of the station, and it was enclosing glass, whatever this part is, and it's round, has bolts inside. I don't know what it is, but he was focused on that. And all of a sudden I saw some movement. So I spent hours analyzing it. And it is showing a man that looks like he's on some kind of a Segway or some kind of a standing scooter, whatever it is. But he's standing on it. There's a long black pole that's attached to it, and it has attached the cord from the camera to this post. And he's standing on this thing. It's rolling across the ground, and his foot is cocked on like little white block. You can see that he's kind of got his foot on that, and he's just rolling along. Because there's another part of the footage, he's now offering to show himself in a reflection for real. He's like, here I am, look, you can see me in the reflection. And it shows the cord. It shows that cord on the camera, coiled up, but kind of looking like it's floating now. But it's that same damn cord that's, I know, is firmly attached to a black post that's straight up and down, attached to this white base that is rolling across the ground. So these are the type of videos that I do.
Well, that's really interesting, because there's a lot of NASA has been caught in a lot of things by the reflections of things, right? It's like going back all the way to the moonwalks or whatever, where the astronaut's standing there in the big spacesuit on the moon, but then in the reflection in his visor, you can see like a dude standing there with a tripod and the camera, and obviously no suit. I saw one not too long ago. I don't know how old it is, but like I think the guy has like a laptop or something attached to his hip or something, and they're like bouncing up and down in the ISS, and then in the reflection in the laptop screen, you see, like, I'm not even sure what it is, but it's like a guy, like a man standing there with a camera yet again. But so that's really cool. So you can, I guess there's all kinds of stuff you can find, but like you said, they're getting better.
That video you're referring to was originally done by I Spy, and it is Thomas Perquet, the French astronaut. He is photobombing Peggy Whitson on station, and there's no reason for him to be actually fiddling around about the ceiling trying to retrieve one of their water pouches. He's up there far too long for comfort. I thought, this is really staged. So I'm not really sure why they wanted us to see that reflection. So I Spy did make the first video on it, but he was accused of adding a layer through his own manipulation to intensify the figures in that footage of the man wearing the mask. So I took that same video and I redid it, showing what it actually really does look like. And it still looks like a person wearing a mask. And there's another one wearing a mask as well. And if you watch it really closely, you do see the camera go by, someone holding a camera. But it's a very strange video, because why on earth would Thomas be up there so long just trying to grab something that's up on the ceiling and bring it down and move it off and go away? It's not, you're not doing an event. It's Peggy's event solely by herself. It just goes on for far too many seconds for me to believe that it's not staged. So it's very, very weird, that whole video. But he's not watching. And I've been people saying, oh, he was just watching some kind of a movie on his iPad. No, it's definitely full on reflection of what they seemingly wanted us to see. And maybe they put the truth out in plain sight. And Russian Bids always says that, you know, and maybe they have to. I don't know. But I've certainly done many more videos since then, showing other reflections. I have a reflection video of a man running across a reflection, and they're supposed to be on a spacewalk. And you see the man in a reflection, and it's not in a window. He is outside of the space station, and he runs across. So it's impossible. And other videos like this is where I focus my time these days on, is doing this. And I didn't even like space, you know, in my life. Like, I knew about the station, it was there, and I'd seen a couple videos, but it's not, I'm not a space person. So it's like a double-edged sword for me to, you know, it's like a nemesis for me to be studying this footage and doing all of this when I just dislike it so much. But I'm so on a mission to continually expose them for what they are and bring it to the world. And so that's what I've been doing for the last almost 2 years now, is making these videos. So it's been pretty great. You know, I'm really happy that the comments sometimes you just get trolled so bad where they come in like hordes, like
Yeah.
zombies, you know. It's so weird. And then all of a sudden you just have a lot of positive comments. And at times I thought I should just take away the comments altogether. But then I think people like to do comments. So I like the comments where they say, you help me wake me up. You know, you help me wake up my family. Like, I have comments, and I've pinned them on some of my videos, you know, where you can pin it so people can see that, like, I do make a difference. And that does overcome the negativity where people tell you that you need to go and kill yourself.
Yeah, it really does. Even if it's just one person that's saying something positive out of 100 that are just trashing you, to me that's worth it, because you're never going to reach everyone with this information. And maybe, you know, at some point everyone will come around, but you know, I think that this battle sort of won one person at a time. So yeah, I agree. And you know, you're right about like NASA. It almost seems like sometimes they want to get caught. I know there was a video, this doesn't have to do with reflections per se, but like that, you know, you see these people in the ISS, and they are you know, floating around weightless, and then like I think it's like a Chinese guy flies by the background, and he's definitely obviously on wires, like on harnesses.
His joystick is sticking out of his back. Yeah, that one.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's clearly on harnesses. And so I don't know how they explain that and why they would goof up so bad to get that in there, other than, you know, maybe they are wanting to get caught, or maybe there is some unwritten rule that they have to tell on themselves. And, you know, this comes back to the whole thing where, you know, if they advertise what they're doing and nobody protests or nobody expresses dissent, then that's like implied consent. That's our giving them consent to do whatever it is they're trying to do. But so, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it really kind of does. But then my question is, you know, okay, so we're standing up and disagreeing and expressing our dissent. So what then? What are they going to be like? Oh, you got me. You know, we're going to give it up. I don't think so, but you know what? Who knows? I don't know what that is all about. But at least we can say that we did not go along with it forever, right?
Exactly. And I mean, they are going to decommission the space station. I think, is it 2021? So I mean, that thing was never
2025 by
it was
2025. Yeah,
it was never built to last the 19 years that it's been up there now. So how do they even explain that? You know. But at least the Chinese space station fell yesterday on April Fool's Day into the Pacific Ocean. So, of course, it landed there, so we couldn't verify it. But I thought they were just going to throw a bunch of wreckage out of the back of a, you know, a freight plane. You know, it just, there you go.
I had no idea. So that was a planned thing. They had planned.
you know, they've been talking about that thing falling for a couple of years now, and it just happens
Oh
to fall on
yeah.
April Fool's Day. Like, there are no coincidences, John. Like, that was pretty obvious to me. Like, okay, well, April Fool's. So now they don't have to worry about that thing anymore, because that was their little nemesis, I guess, right? People asking about it. So now they can move on to something else. But I mean, we've got, we've got so much footage from when they had that thing up there, so it's lots of fun to look through that, because they've got lots of problems in their own videos, and their own spacewalk when they tell their astronauts to get into the water. You know,
Yeah.
doesn't work very well. How stupid they are. Like, honestly, these government employees are not the smartest bunch. I think that's another reason why they make so many mistakes, is their GS employees often have maybe an associate's degree to get their foot in the door. And they start off as a GS9, maybe making maybe 30,000 a year. Like, astronauts don't get paid a lot. If you really think about it, what would some highly educated person with PhDs out the yin yang do? Want to work, be trained for 8 years, to become an astronaut and maybe get a chance to go to space, but there's no guarantee. When they've got so much education, they've paid so much money to get these PhDs that you have like got a ball and chain around your neck for years to try to pay off your student loans, unless you got in on a free ride. But they're now going to accept a GS9 position to make $30,000 a year for all those years. How are they going to pay off their student loans and raise their families? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, maybe that does make sense though, because think about it this way, like, because we know that NASA is a big fraud,
True.
right? But everybody else doesn't know that. And so what a better way to deter actual qualified people from wanting to become an astronaut when they see the pay grade, they're like, ugh, yeah, I'm not going to do that, right? So maybe that is a smart move on their end.
So they get the short bus employees.
Well, to prevent, qualified people from applying out the ass, and then you'd have this whole huge thing. Well, nobody's getting hired, but I mean, obviously, it's only going to be people that are subservient, probably members of some secret society or another that they hire.
That makes sense. I never thought of it that way. Like someone like
right.
Peggy Whitson that can't even say Greenwich Mean Time, had to say Greenwich.
Yeah.
People like that.
Right. And if you watch the astronauts and listen to what they talk about, I don't think that they're all that smart. I mean, they claim to be and they have the credentials or whatever, but I don't know, like that Don guy when the
John Pettit.
interview, yeah, Pettit, when they ask him, well, what happens if you have a leak here? And he's like, well, then you have a leak.
You just have to have a spacewalk, I guess. There must be a procedure.
Right. And so I don't know. They just don't strike me as brilliant people, but they are good con artists, obviously, because they're clearly not in space. That whatever they're doing is fakery. So perhaps they're screening people for other things other than smarts and
Well, sure.
personality or whatever.
I mean, Mike Mazzamino, he was on The Big Bang Theory for several episodes, being an astronaut, and they're up on the ISS, and the show that was focused on this, and they're able very well to make it look like they were floating and the pens were floating, and it wasn't far off the mark of what we watch on events.
Right. Yeah, and when they do things like play ping pong with water, I've seen some pretty good demonstrations of how that could be done with out of the box technology that anyone, if you had the money and the time to set it up, could do, where it's basically like 3D virtual reality.
Absolutely.
And so they're just pretending to do stuff up there, and it looks like they're actually doing it. But, again, you'd have to be pretty devious. You'd have to be a certain type of person that would go ahead and do that sort of crap, shenanigans, tricking people, and to be able to sleep at night. So it just seems like they're not hiring astronauts based on their educational merits or their credentials. They're hand selecting, probably, for all we know, it's like a coven of witches or something. That would make a whole lot more sense to me, But yeah, it's crazy.
Well, that does make a lot of sense, absolutely. And just listening to them speak, they may have credentials, but they're not speaking as a highly intelligent person who's educated. They're using simple terms. I've never had to, grab a a dictionary and like, what did they just say? Like, never on any word. Everything's very simple.
Right.
Like they kind of speak like Donald Trump, even though I'm sort of I'm an anarchist, but we have a president that at least I don't think.
Do you think that these people really believe it? Like I said, do you think they've been drugged or something? Like, do you think that this thing works so well that they actually believe they're going in a rocket? And they actually believe when they're actually docking the space station, and when they go outside,
They on that
they
good
actually
shit.
believe. I'm just saying, do you think they've been given something and they just believe, like they've been told that they're there and they believe it? I don't know.
I doubt it. I don't think so. I mean, that's an interesting thought, and maybe I'd like break me off some of what they're having. No, but I don't know. It just seems to me it would be pretty easy because for all we know, they're not making 39,000 a year. That's just what we're told that they make, and that's what they're people that might be qualified to apply as an astronaut would be told that they would make, and so it deters them. But for all we know, we have no idea what these people are making. Who knows? But it wouldn't be that hard, I don't think, to find people, especially if you're looking in the right places. Whether it's I don't know, and I don't want to like offend any witches out there, but like a coven of witches, or I don't know, people who worship Baal or something. I don't know. But if you're looking in the right places, I just don't think it would be hard to find people that are willing to lie through their teeth as a job and pretend to be in space, and they wouldn't lose any sleep over it. It just doesn't seem that hard, especially this day and age. People are pretty crazy.
Well, and then they're getting fame and notoriety over it.
Right.
The world thinks they're this astronaut, and they're getting off on that. They're attention-seeking kind of people. So that's all great stuff to them. And if they don't have a conscience, like you said, they can sleep at night. This is all positive stuff. I'm an astronaut. Look at me, I'm famous. I can go and do lectures afterwards. If they send me to Mars and I'm the first person to walk on Mars, I'll be known as the first person to set foot on Mars. I'll be just like Neil Armstrong, and I'll be famous, and
Yeah.
I can make a lot of money afterwards. So it's very, very possible what you're saying, John. It's just so nauseating to sit here and have to watch it all the time.
Their days are coming to an end with this crap, though. Oh, and you had mentioned Trump. He's cutting the budget for the ISS, and I looked into that a little bit because I thought that was really interesting. But it is a little bit of a curveball, because what they want to do is, apparently the way it is now is they want to defund the ISS over the next few years and eventually completely defund it by, I want to say 2025, but maybe it's 2023 or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But as opposed to spending money on that, they want to reallocate those funds to like either orbiting the moon in a space station or going to Mars. So it's not like they're saying, oh, we're defunding the space station and then we're defunding NASA. They're saying, oh, well, we're going to defund the space station and then we're going to put all this money to other places. But,
aren't they going to put into the Orion, though, and just get rid of the station, and then we'll have the Orion, and then we're going to have to try to prove that that's fake. It's going to be harder.
Right.
It's easier to prove that the space station is fake than it's going to be Orion, that is going to be way up there traveling to Mars, and they're probably not going to do live events because they won't be able to have the decent enough connection to be able to do that. So it's just going to get deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole, I think, because it's going to be way harder to prove that they're lying to us.
Right. And like, well, my thing is like, I don't know, a lot of people think that Donald Trump is like, this like man of the people, and he's like a real guy, and he's not part of the in crowd. He's not one of these Illuminati people. But yeah, I don't know. I tend to disagree.
Me too.
He's not really done anything in his term in presidency so far that would be indicative of that to me at all. Maybe he's done a few good things that are different than what we would expect from a normal politician, but maybe this is just a step towards him saying, okay, he doesn't want to show all his cards, so he's going to say, well, we're going to defund the ISS over 5 years, but we're going to put that money in other things. I mean, for all we know, he might, assuming he goes 2 terms, he might defund the ISS and say, and oh, by the way, the hell with all this other stuff, we're defunding the rest of it too. I don't know. I just don't see him doing that. But in him doing this, and the administration doing this, they're sort of throwing us a bone to say, oh, you know, well, Donald Trump, look what he's doing, look what his administration's doing. They're getting rid of the ISS, and you know, maybe he's scoring some points with this that way. But if they're just going to turn around and keep stealing our money for some other shit, excuse my language, then what difference does it make? So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But
I don't trust him either. Not, this whole gun control thing, and now he's cooperating with the Dems and sitting there discussing the steps that they're going to take to change the laws and start doing deeper checks on people. And if you've ever been Baker acted, you will not be able to have a gun. And how many people have been Baker acted just because they were depressed or they had just said, I'm going to kill myself. And that's actually a popular term now with the kids, apparently. I just learned that. And then all of a sudden you spill your stomach pills on the counter and your sister calls and the police come and then the police talk to the judge and now you're Baker acted and this is a person that I know. So this is a true story. What happened? He was a charge nurse and he did say he was depressed and he said, oh, I should just end it all. And then he spilled his stomach pills. These are not pills that he could kill himself with. Stomach pills on the counter. And his sister saw that, called the police took him, got a judge to sign, and he got Baker acted. So now he, if this goes through, will never be able to own a firearm. It's lunacy.
wow.
So how could Trump say that this is a good thing, that he's a supporter of our Second Amendment, yet say that people have been Baker acted should not qualify to have a handgun or any type of weapon like that? It's just, I think it's upsetting.
So like Baker acted is if somebody thinks that you're a threat to yourself or others,
yes,
then basically they can have you put under observation, under essentially lock and key for,
yes,
I don't know, 7 to 10, 72 hours, maybe up to a week or whatever. Okay, right. And so like what does that prove? It doesn't prove anything. It just proves that somebody was concerned about you. But to say that now, they can take away your inalienable rights to bear arms, that's just absurd. But I wouldn't expect anything less.
Isn't it just like a cracking open of the door, where then
Right.
you just continue to Baker act more people, and then you start changing the laws on Baker acting, and you start Baker acting other people for domestic violence or calls domestic disturbances. It's like, oh, you were yelling at your wife. Oh, you're Baker acted. Oh, now you've lost your rights. And pretty soon they're going to switch you to, DUI. You had a DUI. Well, that's kind of like a bit of a mental illness. And so, okay, Baker act you. Now you've lost your rights. And then they're going to keep slowly slithering along. And before you know it, speeding tickets. Oh, nope, no more gun for you. You broke the law. Like, they're just going to continue to enforce their agenda over and over again until we've lost our firearms.
Yeah, because they want you to put the guns down because you've got too many guns in your country. If all the people didn't have guns, it'd be easier to sort of come in and take the people over. But if everybody's got guns, imagine that. They tried to do it. So they've got to make you put your guns down.
This is what's going on right now. They want to take away our guns, and it's
I don't really like guns, but if you didn't have that gun law right now, you'd probably find that martial law would have definitely, well, it is passed, isn't it? But you'd find that the streets would be different if you didn't have guns now.
Absolutely. Wouldn't be able to defend yourselves, and then they could just round you up. And with everything else that he talked about earlier with Agenda 21, happening, ICLEI, and it's everywhere, all over the flat earth now. I mean, it's here. It's happening. Sustainable development is another word for Agenda 21, but people are all sleeping and they're just not aware of what's happening. Go to the library, get the copy of the book, read it yourself. And it's orange by coincidence, the book, Agenda 21, the first version. And they've updated it a couple of times, but it's a real book. It's a real thing. And in that, private land ownership is going to become abolished. We won't be able to have our own houses anymore. And how do you think they're going to get people out of their houses? To avoid a civil war, there'll be no guns. They have to take our guns away. This is a huge agenda. So that's...
Well, I think the precedent has really already started. And yeah, you're right. I mean, Baker acted would be... if they could take away your right to bear arms because a person was Baker acted, that would be huge. But I mean, if you look at the fact that convicted felons already are not able to legally own, firearms in the United States, I mean, that's already saying, okay, well, then our rights really aren't that much of rights. They're more privileges because, frankly, you can't take away God-given rights, but you can take away privileges or liberties. And so they've already set the precedent with with convicted felons that, oh, well, if you do X, Y, and Z, then you no longer have this right. And so, another logical step for these people, the legislatures or whatever, would be to broaden that net of who can they disqualify.
Exactly.
Now, if you look at other countries that have done away with the public's right to bear arms, I know Australia was one that happened within the last few decades. What you see is a huge rise in violent crime because
Absolutely.
the law-abiding citizens are the ones that are going to hand in their firearms and comply with that law. And of course, the
Exactly.
criminals are not. And so you create a situation where the criminals basically have carte blanche to do whatever they want, and there's nobody that's going to be able to stop them. And oh, you can call the police and wait on them to come, but you're not going to be able to do anything to defend yourself, your family, your friends, or the people around you in the spur of the moment. And that's the thing. I mean, I personally don't walk around with a firearm, but it's nice to know that if I wanted to, I could. I don't live in that bad of a part of town, but I could definitely understand, if I wanted to do that and I've got a license to do it, to do that. And if you take away that right, then you're just giving criminals free reign, and that's been proven. That's what happens, and I think that's why we see these. If there are even, well, I don't want to go there, but that's why we see these school shootings, because that if you're going to go to a school, that there's not going to be anybody there to defend themselves, and so whether those are valid examples or not. It just goes to show you, I mean, that right there kind of proves the point that if there's nobody that's able to defend themselves, then that's where criminals are going to go and cause problems. So,
Absolutely, John.
yeah.
And it's just all happening right in front of us, and people are not awake, or they're in denial over it. Yeah.
Indeed.
It's sad that we can't talk about the shootings,
Well,
because there's so much to say about it.
right, but see, that's
Oh,
exactly
'cause they give
what's getting
they
our
give you a
channels
strike,
shut down.
don't they? You get a strike now.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to put you into jeopardy, Karen, but tell
Right,
you,
because
there's
if
just
you
so much
offend
to
one
say.
single person that wants to go and complain to YouTube, then you're pretty much as good as done. If 3 or 4 times, and then you're done. So yeah, I'm not going to bring that stuff up anymore, and that's exactly what they're going for. But what would be the point if I wanted to go and make 20 videos about different events? My channel would be down lickety split. So what's the point in spending the time on doing those sorts of videos or
Well,
making that sort of commentary?
I have noticed though that since they had the march and it's kind of quieted down, that videos have gone up and they're staying up because I've been checking, and the limelight is kind of removed now, and these people, they're still saying they're going to change the world and everything, but they're not on all the news channels anymore. We've moved on. They had the 5 minutes, and it's time to move on to something else. They're pushing the gun agendas through, and the talks have started, and Trump's sitting there saying, yeah, okay, we're gonna put together all this together, one big bill, so get all your ideas together, and we're going to get that happening. I just watched a video about that last night, so it's like, oh, gross.
Well, don't you love those 700-page bills that nobody even reads before we pass them? And then like the Patriot Act, I think, was one, if I'm not mistaken, where nobody in Congress read it, but it got passed. And
now, John, I have a question. Is this an executive order type of thing, or is this going to go on a bill and a ballot to vote on?
What do you mean?
The changes to the gun laws. Are they
Oh,
going to just get their 60 signatures or whatever it is they need to pass it and just do that? Or are they actually going to have to put it for the next election on a ballot somewhere where people can make the choice if they want to go along with it or not? That's my, because I don't understand that.
I mean, I think it would have to be. I mean, honestly, I don't see how they could do it because they would have to essentially go against the Constitution.
But Obama did that a bunch of times as an executive order and changed all kinds of things in the Constitution. So if he can get away with it, then they're going to continue to get away with it. So it's just interesting to know if anyone in the chat knows, like, is this going to be on the ballot, or are they going to be just able to make the changes and then they're going to be the new law? Because that's that's a concern that I have. Like, I'm really bothered by it. And we're a firearms house. You know, my husband is in law enforcement, so he does work for Homeland Security, ironically, but he carries a gun with his job. Sorry, my dogs. Hey. But I mean, he's not gonna want. He's gonna have to pry the gun out of his dead hands. Like, he's a big gun advocate, and I mean, I don't own a personal firearm. I don't want to have one, but I do go to the range sometimes and shoot. You know, I know how to handle myself with a gun, but I just don't have one. You know, I'm always with him, and he's always carrying, so I don't need to have my own. But I don't want laws to change where one day I won't be able to have one because maybe I'll get depressed and I'll end up Baker acted. And then I've lost my opportunity to have a gun. You know, it can happen. Like my friend, a normal person, freaking charge nurse in charge of a whole floor of nurses. And his sister was so stupid. And he probably won't be able to qualify to have his own handgun now because he was Baker acted. Like,
well, and you know, this was the first that I had heard when you had just mentioned it about people who were Baker acted not being able to own a firearm. I had no idea like about it at all. I mean, how far along is that?
well, this is all part of the new draft that they're putting together right now, and this whole Baker Act thing is in there. So it's
Yeah.
really upsetting. You can't say that you are pro for our rights for the for and then say that we want to take away your rights. It's
Right.
too broad of a brush to paint across all these people. You know, this man was put in there for 72 hours and he hadn't done anything. He just made a statement. Have you
Right.
ever said it? I've said it. Oh, I've just killed myself. I've said it
Yeah,
tons of
well, of
times. I
course,
never
but
meant it.
even you wouldn't even have to do or say anything. All that somebody has to do is claim that they believe that you're a threat to yourself or others, and poof, you're Baker acted. I mean, there's nothing to it. It's not even like, you know, they say you're innocent before innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But if you get arrested for something, even if you're found not guilty, that still shows up on your record 20 years later, just for being arrested for something.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, maybe, you know, different levels of that. But then, in terms of being Baker acted, you know, somebody just has to say or feel or claim that they feel that you're a threat to yourself or others, and that's it. And so, you know, our government is so non-representative anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if they voted in.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen.
Or either way, you know, whether it's some sort of signing statement or executive order from Trump, if it goes on the books as a law and the Supreme Court upholds it, you know, in one single case precedent, then it says they might as well have voted unanimously on it in the Senate. So either way, I mean, this is what's been coming down the pipeline for 20 years almost. You know, every single time we see these events happen, they're always going after assault rifles and even handheld pistols. But even in the cases where assault rifles and handheld pistols were not used,
But you know, the thing is, John, I hate to correct you, but there's no such thing as an assault rifle. You know, I mean, I could take a hammer and go hit my son over the head right now with it, and we could call it an assault hammer. Or I could take a pillow and I could smother my baby, and now we could call that an assault pillow. Like, it's not. It's a gun. It's a semi-automatic weapon that can be used to shoot, and it can be used to shoot people with. Absolutely, but is it an assault weapon? No, it's not.
Right.
It's
I mean,
gun.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, semantically, there's really no difference between a knife and a gun, and maybe even a cup of water. You can drown in a cup of water too. Is that an assault cup of water? Right. So I see what you're saying. And I guess there's a differentiation between, you know, a quote unquote assault rifle and maybe something that it's like a bolt action where you shoot once and you have to, you know, redo the bolt and then shoot again. You know, assault rifle is semi-automatic. Large clips, some of them super large clips, but you know, either here nor there. I think the point is that what you may classify, or what, you know, people may generally classify as assault rifles, are something that could go up against what certain agencies and stuff have in their arsenal. So, you
But
know,
they carry, you know, like the AR-15 has the same size bullets that actually can fit into a handgun. They're not bigger bullets. Like
Right.
you get bigger bullets that you shoot into deer.
Sure.
It's just propaganda. It's fear mongering people into thinking that big black gun is a murder weapon, you know. And like I
Yeah.
said, I could just take a fork and I could stab it into the ear of my best friend that lives with us, and I could kill her right now.
Oh, well, you know what? I could Baker Act you for that.
Yeah.
Just for saying it. No, but you really could. That could be grounds right there to Baker Act you. And for I had no idea that was going on, but I've gotten to the point to where so what can we do about this? We can wake people up and show them what's going on. We can vote against it, but unless a critical mass of people wakes up to this and starts taking action, there's not a whole lot that we can do. I mean, I hate to take that sort of defeatist attitude, but the best I think we can do is to raise awareness, state our positions, and hopefully make a change. But
that's
I'm not
true,
running for
Jon.
office anytime soon. I don't
That's
think.
all we can do, because the plays are in motion right in
Right.
front of us.
Yep.
Agenda 21 is a real thing. It's happening in cities all across the country. In the US, it's happening in cities all across other countries. It was all the part of this United Nations that was signed in 1992. It's a real thing. It's just a very slow boat coming towards us. And I really strongly feel that they have to take away our guns first to be able to implement the Agenda 21, what they ultimately want to do. They keep us focused on silly things like space stations orbiting around fake globes to make sure that people are not paying attention. Propaganda in the schools constantly. They're not teaching kids properly anymore. Kids don't even get to learn cursive handwriting anymore. In fact, you get in
Right.
trouble if you use it. And I saw a little girl do a video, and her grandfather gave her a birthday card. She couldn't read what he said because he wrote it in cursive, and she was like 16 years old. Like, this is the
Wow.
dumbing down of America. It's really frightening. If I had kids again, if I did this all over again, I'd homeschool them. There was no way that I would put them in any kind of public education, because they're not teaching them anything. It's just whole word,
Yeah, I
and
do things
it's
differently now. If
horrible.
my children were younger, I'd do the same.
Mm.
Now I
I
know.
can.
Now I realise, or I've woken up to more and understood I wouldn't do things differently with my own children.
Yeah, it's really, really
Yeah,
sad.
like I saw somewhere on like some news program or something, or read somewhere, I can remember recently though. I don't know how old this is, but there was a teacher in an all-girls school, and I think it was a male teacher. I could be mistaken, but no, maybe it was a female teacher. Hell, I probably shouldn't even tell the story. But they go, okay, girls, let's get started, and they ended up getting fired for that because one of the students at an all-girls school identified as a male, and that statement offended it, and yeah, the teacher lost their job.
Lunacy.
And so,
Such
if the
lunacy.
schools get to the point to where you can't even, use, gender specific pronouns or whatever, I don't know.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
just gotten so absurd,
Well, Canada's already there. You can't
Mhm.
use gender specific pronouns now. In fact, you have to be really careful how you address anyone. I mean, I guess we're going to get to the point where a baby is born, they'll look at it and hand it to the mother. They're not going to
It's an
say
it.
anything. It's a baby. Here, you do
It's
that.
a
Boy or
it's
girl.
a well, we don't want to offend anybody, so it's just it's a thing.
It's the baby. That's everyone can agree on that. It's a newborn infant, but don't assign a gender, even though it's quite obvious what it is. We can't know what this baby is feeling or thinking right now, so we wouldn't want to offend the baby by saying, what we think. But yeah, it's a crazy world, all backwards, upside down, and I'm glad that I don't live in California. I'm glad at least I'm in southern Florida. More Republicans here. At least I couldn't be around all those libtards. I'm sorry. It's just too crazy for me. I don't understand their thoughts and feelings, and all these women, feminists, and oh geez, what they say and do, and and then Bill Nye and that dance video that I love my vagina song.
Oh my God, yeah, that was
Oh,
awful.
that was so cringy. It was so odd. And he's like, I got a cool new thing for you guys. trying to be all like, hip and everything. It was so horrible. Does he even still have his Netflix show? Just so gross. But
I
this
hope
is,
not.
oh, I haven't looked. I just saw that and like that was enough. But it, at least we've got Roseanne Barr back on TV. Like I don't really watch TV, but I watched a video on YouTube to show what she was doing, and it was kind of nice. Even though she's got a sister on the show that's being, she's like a full on libtard, and she's wearing a vagina hat, and all that. But they also have a grandson, I guess, that's a transgender, and he's dressing in dresses and going to school. So they have that element in there, and then they're praying at the table, so it's kind of a mixed bag. But hopefully, I mean, Roseanne's a big supporter of Trump, but like I said, I'm not a Republican. I'm an anarchist, but I don't trust any government, and I certainly don't trust
Freedom
any leader.
fighter.
What was it? What was that?
She's a freedom fighter. That's what Anna means.
Yeah, right. So better than the alternative, I guess. Who knows? I just think they're talking heads. They're all getting their backstory out of the same people. It's just who's more likable, this or that one. And who knows, even if the elections are even real, if those ballots really go into the right, piles.
Right. Well, yeah, I don't think that I don't think our votes really count for anything. I mean, especially not in the primaries, which I think is where they really would count. I mean, not in the primaries, but in whatever the hell the one is where they're voting for the leader of the Democrats, leader of the Republicans, the ones that are going to go against each other. What is that? The primaries? Whatever the hell it is, I don't know. But if we don't get to pick who the candidates are going to be, and then we have to vote between two candidates that we never wanted to begin with, and then when we do vote for them, our votes really aren't even counted anyway. Yeah, I mean, it's just a huge waste of time, in my opinion. But like, I guess my point is like, if I would have voted this last presidential election, I wouldn't have voted for either of them. So no matter what, the one I wanted wouldn't have won because they weren't even in the running. And so to say that is a choice, it's just ridiculous. But
they're probably all related to each other, John, or they're all intertwined together, the whole lot of them. And like I said, it's just a show, and they're all just talking heads. And the puppeteers are the ones that are really running it, and they're not. That's the way I've believed it for a very long time. And even though Trump was much more likable and had great speeches and making America great again, that's an impossibility. It's an oxymoron, really, because of everything else that we know is happening. You can't make that great unless you really said, okay, Agenda 21, we're getting rid of that. I'm getting rid of that. We're going to cancel our signing on it. We're not doing it anymore. Then I would know, okay, I could trust this guy, but he's not saying that or doing that. So, and he must be aware of it.
And until a candidate comes out and says we're getting rid of the Federal Reserve, frankly, I don't want to have anything to do with them because the very backbone of our economy is based on lies, and it's a fiat currency. There's nothing behind it, and you've got private banks that are just inventing money out of thin air, loaning it out at interest. It's just a huge scam, is what it is. And anybody that's going to run for president and isn't aware of the Federal Reserve scam, then frankly, they're either in on it or they're oblivious. And neither one of those is a good thing.
Sure. There was that one candidate, that old doctor dude, or was he a doctor?
Ron Paul.
He wanted to abolish the Federal Reserve. I could have gotten behind that. Maybe he was a real person. He had cheap suits. He wasn't some rich billionaire guy. So that was a possibility. But sadly, a guy like that's never gonna get in there because it's never gonna be allowed. Like you said, they pick their party person. I think it is the primaries that when they do that, and those are the people that we're going to get to choose from, not the people that we think we should be able to choose from. So it's just all...
So the primaries is the one where they do that, and then the general election is the last one. So that I was right the first time. Okay.
You were. I'm not that, you know, I don't vote either. I actually just have a green card. I haven't gotten my citizenship. I really should, because who knows? You know, maybe we're all going to start getting into trouble for exposing NASA's lies. And all I need is to be arrested and get deported back to Canada. That would work very well for me. So,
I wish they'd
yeah,
deport me somewhere.
yeah.
Real.
Are you in South Carolina still, or where are you now, John?
No, I'm in Sanford, Florida, right northeast of Orlando.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, we're pretty close. I'm
Oh yeah.
just outside of West Palm Beach.
Oh,
We should,
awesome.
we should hook up sometime and do lunch, or try to get a little group going. I'm not aware of any you know, flat Earth get-togethers that we've ever had in the Florida area. That maybe there was something in Orlando once. I'm not sure, but nothing closer to us. So that would be really
I've been
fun.
thinking this. I've been thinking the same thing. It's so hard for me to do anything because I work all the time. I don't have any transportation right now, so it's like, yeah. But I'd love to. I'd love to do something like that. I would
We can
love
do it in
to put together.
Sanford. We can do it in Sanford, so it's closer
I
for
will.
you.
I will walk.
Uh-huh.
I
Well,
will walk there.
I can pick you up. We can pick you up. You don't have to walk. And
No, I
you
would.
know,
I would though. Because Sanford's pretty
Sanford's not
small.
far. No, I think that would be great. We've never done one. Like, it bugs me. There's got to be more flat earthers than just you and I, and you know, the
Oh
people
yeah.
around me that I know. There surely must be. And if Mark, you know, advertises it like he says he will, and I know he will, maybe we could generate enough interest. Like, even if it's 5 people, like, it would just be really cool to do it. It's the first one, to start a precedent with it, and it'd be really great to have you be launching the first one, you know, so because you're so popular and everyone loves you. So, you know, I think we got to shoot for that. I would love it.
Yeah, I'd like to do something local. You know, and I've thought about it a lot. I just, you know, it costs money and takes time. But yeah, I
Sure.
would love to put together something where we could just get together and maybe, you know, have some beers and hang out, because, you know, there's a lot of flat earthers out there, but they're separated pretty few and far between. But you know, if you could get the word out, you know, or we get the word out online at
Definitely.
different venues, I think would be something that would be pretty easy to fill a venue. You know.
Sure. And if you can think of a venue in Sanford that that you would like, that you would think would be good, you could pick it, and we'll just arrange it. Like I said, I'll come and pick you up, and we'll do it. Any day that you want is that will work for you, because I'm always available because I'm at home. So when you on your schedule, you know, you work it for what will work for you, and I'll happily go along with it, and then we'll get Mark to start advertising it and pick a date, and we'll do it. Finally,
Yeah.
my first official flat Earth. What do they even call them? I don't even know, what do they call? I can't even think. They call them.
What, we're gonna have a party?
What's that?
Yeah, a party.
A party? No, they call it something else.
Meet.
I'm not sure. Anyway, meeting? It's not even meeting. They call it. Look at us. We don't even know what they're called because we don't ever go to them. Like, they're all in the know of their lingo, and here we are, flat earthers, and we don't even know what they're called because we've never been to one. I mean, I wanted to go to Raleigh, but it didn't work out.
Oh, I know what it is. It'd be a flat Earth ball.
Okay.
Uh,
I love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, but
That's
I'd definitely be interested in doing something like that. Hey, and listen, guys, on that note, Bling Bling, please get my contact information from Karen. And Karen, if you need anything from me, Facebook me. But I've been off work now for a couple hours, and I'm gonna go eat dinner, and I'm gonna actually get out of my filthy ass work clothes. So I hate to. Is it done? Okay. Yeah. So I hate to just to
well, that's
dash
all
on
right.
you
You have a
guys.
life. We all have lives, and you know that's totally understandable.
Yeah, I'm
We'll
about
just
to.
keep you here.
No. I'm just about to start. If you guys, I know you guys go on for like dozens of hours sometimes.
Yeah, Karen
So
is a go-getter. She does it every day.
yeah, I'm an all-nighter.
if you're still on when I get done eating and get my shower and stuff, I may pop back in. I guess the link will still be good. But honestly, I usually go to bed about
I've
9
got to
o'clock.
go to work in
Sure.
the morning, John. We'll probably have to finish in a little bit because I mean,
Absolutely.
we've been on with Bling Bling for nearly, I suppose, well, I don't know, was it
Well, the
was
whole
let me
first
just look.
hour got screwed up because you couldn't even get the chat going or the
Yeah.
hangout right. So
We've been on for over 3 hours now.
been
Have
I
you?
might have to
wonderful.
go. But it's a real pleasure you've been on.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Always a pleasure.
thank you for having me. Thanks for the invite. And anytime that I see you guys live, I always pop in. And whenever you ask me to hang out, I usually do if I can. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
always a
nice to have
pleasure.
Jon The Morgile on.
It's
Yeah, and it was good to
fantastic.
meet you, Bling Bling. Is your
Oh,
channel name just called Bling Bling?
it's Bling Bling, the BS of the ISS, and my name is actually Christine. You can use that too. I don't hide myself. I've done videos showing who I am. I just turned my camera off because Karen thought that she was getting better reception, but I'm full out there. I've done videos sitting in front of the camera showing who I am, and I'm a full on flat earther. I'm not on the fence. I'm full on. I feel sorry for globe people now, very very much. So I will
Yeah.
never never go back to that again. So,
Awesome.
but,
Well, hey, it was good to meet you. Everybody else, I'm not sure who else is on the panel, but I'm gonna run. And
okay,
yeah,
John.
Karen, if you want to send, you said Christine, right?
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to send her my contact information, and I can actually, what I'll do is I'll just put my my email and my telephone number in the group chat here in
Oh, great.
It's
the
always
Hangout
good to
chat.
connect with people, isn't it? I'm really pleased you've connected with each other. That's brilliant.
I am too. I had no idea that you were in Sanford. Like that's amazing to me because I thought you were in South or North Carolina, weren't you?
Yeah, both. Yeah, I was in North Carolina for a long time, and then in South Carolina
There you
probably
go.
for as long as I've been a flat earther, and then some. But yeah, but I'm in Florida as of not even a year back here now. 'Cause I grew up in Orlando area, but I've been
Ah,
back in Florida since right before the eclipse in August of 2017. So about 8 months or so. Yeah,
awesome. That is so
yeah,
cool. Yeah, I'm glad to know that now. I'm excited. We're gonna have our
yeah.
first flat Earth hangout or whatever you call
Yeah,
it. We'll
awesome.
all
No,
get
it's a flat Earth
together.
ball. Yeah.
Love that.
Uh, all right, y'all. Hey, be good. Love you guys, and I'm sure we'll
Thank
talk
you,
again real
Jon.
soon.
Big flat
Love
Earth
you
hug
too,
to
John.
you. Thank you, my darling.
Okay, guys.
See you.
All right, peace
All right.
out, John.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, darling.
That was awesome.
Hey.
Terrific. I've always loved him, his intelligence and his way of speaking, and he's just so darn great. We are very blessed to have people like
He's a
John.
nice talker. He's a nice talker, Jon.
We're
I
blessed
like
to have
him.
some of the people that we have in the community. And the only thing I wish that we had is a head count of how many flat earth realists actually exist worldwide. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, mind you, they can't even tell us what we're living on, so I can't imagine they're going to tell us that.
Well, no, I mean it
I
would be
would
up for
just say,
us
Bling
to
Bling,
find that out. I've always thought if we could get some kind of a list going, and if people could, they don't have to write their real name, that's fine, but don't sign more than once. So we could get a general count, and even if it took 6 months, to know how many flat earthers are there. It's always very curious to me because I have no idea. I don't know what number to
I mean, there
say.
might be more than you think.
I hope
That would be
so.
great.
I hope so. At least we get a total count of how many we have, that are involved, through, the various mediums that we have, Facebook and YouTube and DTube and all these other things that we're using now to promote our flat earth truth. It would be nice, I mean, some people have 100,000 subs. Is that everybody then? Is it just 100,000, or is it people are just not subscribing to that channel? Because I look at the big channels and I think, okay, well, is that the number then? Is it how small it is, or is there more? So I would just like to know, is at least in, as far as social media,
A
how
little
many
bit
flat
harder as
earthers?
well, by the way, Bling Bling, because they've done something to Facebook where they've tried to kill the flat earth groups on Facebook. They've just done so. They've taken all the views off my channel, on my Facebook group. So I can't, like, just to see who's viewed the post would be something. They've taken all these things away, and on my own profile, my personal
Well,
one,
I
I
was
can see
thinking
loads
on
of
Mr.
people have
Thrive and
them.
Survive's website when it gets it running, if he could include something like that.
It is running. People for People .life
Yes.
is on the go. People are joining as we speak. The only difference is that things may not just move forward very quickly this last few days because Mr. Thrive and Survive's not been very well. He's had flu.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But
Yeah.
if you talk to him, if run it by him, if he could put up some kind of a thing where people could sign and we could get a count of how many.
The only thing was with People for People, it's not that there might not be this great big section with Flat Earth on it, and I suppose people that are going to join it first of all will be Flat Earthers, but this was for everybody.
Sure.
This was the place. And so, you know, with medication talk, you know, like alternatives, people who haven't got much money but can actually heal themselves differently, maybe. It'll be education, communities, to make your own communities.
Okay.
You know, so you'll go,
but
hey, like you just found out John's
website.
not very far from you, haven't you? Just found out he lives not very far. Then,
Somebody
you know,
that
oh,
has a
look, all these,
website.
there's 10 people that live a few miles from me, 20
Really?
people, 30 people. No, that's what this website will be about.
Oh,
so that
okay,
hopefully,
I understand.
yeah, you'll be able to see how many Flat Earthers. But I'm not sure because it's not my baby. Whatever is on is Mr. Thrive and Survive.
Whoops.
But it's quite a meaty task, isn't it? Because, you know, he just came on a hangout to hang out with us, and then by the end of it, he bought a web name, and he's actually starting a whole new site.
Wow. Quite impactful.
It all happens on Sun and Moon. I'm telling you.
Did you inspire him? Because you are very inspirational, Karen. So
he's a really spiritual man, and he's just very sensitive and sweet. He's just a lovely man. I really like Mr. Thrive and Survive.
Well, that's
wonderful. He's got much respect. And
nice.
you know, when there was a few things happening to me last year, he supported me, you know, and he said really nice things about me. So, and then he was one of the people at your conference in November to stand up on that stage and talk about this group. He's the only one that mentioned Sun and Moon at the,
Well, it's a little bit of a boys' club, sadly. I hate to say that, but you know, guys will be guys, you know, and that's why it's nice to see, you know, someone like Jon coming on, you know, because he's part of, you know, the men's, you know, kind of their little bit of inclusivity. You know, I would like to see Globebusters bring some women on sometimes onto the panel. Like,
actually, what the chat room said. The chat room did say. The chat room said that they should ask you on to Globebusters. That's what the chat room was saying.
Oh, really? Well, I'll tell you, I would be more than thrilled to do it. I may not have the, like I said, the pay level that someone like Jon does, but I certainly have other skills that I have developed in the last couple of years with what I'm doing. And I would just like to see more women. Like, I'm not a feminist, that's for sure, but I'm a person that likes to see men and women.
Yeah, you know, don't you, Bling Bling? You know, when we do these hangouts, there's usually many more men than women that come on the hangouts. That doesn't say women don't come on the hangout, you know, but there's always 2 women, there'll be 3 or 4 men. But
it's usually more men, and there's plenty of women that are in Flat Earth, but for whatever reasons, they tend to stay a little bit onto the sidelines. And you know, I encourage women that are listening, jump in the deep end of the pool. You know, like, it's once you do your first hangout and get over those show nerves, you're just talking into your device. You know, it becomes a very calm.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't want to do these hangouts, and it's really strange because I go to a few people who I really think, like, just some of these YouTubers who are making great videos. I go, would you come on our hangout? No. They just go straight away, no, I hate them, or I hate it. I'm not doing it. You know, it's not shy, for everybody.
They know that there's a lot of people listening. You know, it's like you just have to overcome that, forget about it. You know, like
I have to say, my fear is that I do actually clam up, and I'm going, I just don't know what to say. That's my fear. So we all have little fears, and
yeah, but the
thing is, like,
Karen, with you, Karen, you're so good at filling in dead air. You know, you always fill dead air. Like, you're great at this, so people, they don't have to worry. Karen will babysit you. You don't have to worry that there's going to be like dead air. You know, she'll fill in the void right away with something else to say, because you are brilliant at this, Karen. It's true, you know, and Patricia, the
thing is, I don't mind being quite silent, you know, on these hangouts, because I'm sure of who I am. I know what I believe. And I don't, you know, as much as, okay, Sun and Moon is, you know, my channel, our channel, because people like Lev and Patricia and Astral are helping, you know, and they're rather a lot on the Hangouts, and Jay and so forth. But, you know, it's not about me. It doesn't need to be about me. This was for me to get the people together, you know. And on the other hand, Mr. Rich Five and Survivor's doing it with people for people.life. Everybody sign up.
Just wanna. It's just Margaret.
Sign up
Nobody
people
came.
for people.life. But it's
So
great.
just like
It was
that
actually
now,
great
I'm
to
gonna have to
hear,
join it because I tried going the other day, and it wasn't there yet. So now that it is there, I'll have to go in there and jump in there and join.
yeah, cool. But it was also nice to hear you and Jon The Morgile talk as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Like I said, I've been listening to him for a long time, and he was very inspirational to me when I was just learning about flat Earth, and I listened to tons of his videos. So he helped me with my journey because it wasn't just me listening to Eric Dubay and then jumping on to Mark Sargent and then like, okay, no, it was back and forth with disbelief. How could they do this? You know, the very, very profound question that why would they do this? It just kept hanging around my head, you know. So it was people, you know, like Jon The Morgile that helped push me through it, and then starting to listen to Bob on Globebusters that helped push me through that sticky point, you know, where you finally let go of all of that, and you realize that these people are so intelligent. These aren't high school dropouts, you know. These are people. Bob's an engineer. These people are intelligent. They know what they're talking about. When Bob started rattling off numbers for pi the other day, just on the top of his head, he was just blowing my mind. You know, I really miss that Brian Mullen left because of, you know, the fear of losing his job, his, you know, he was licensed in 5 states as an engineer. I know he's still a flat earth guy. He's not going to change that. You don't go back to the globe once you realize there's no curve. It's just, sadly, most people are being silenced because they don't want to lose their reputations and their jobs. And I understand that, you know, but people like us.
I know, but the really weird thing is, like you say, you've got like, there are loads of different religions, or even like there's Methodist, Catholic, Protestant. There's many other in the UK, but you say you're a flat earther, and it's as if you've killed someone.
Yeah. It's better to say you killed someone.
Yeah. You're
That's
so
more
persecuted.
forgivable than to say that
you can
you're
almost
flat.
see the corner of their lip curling up, you know, they're so ooh.
Well, I know that it's better to start in baby steps with people that you think are kind of closed-minded than to just blow their minds all away by making the big announcement, because they don't know anything about flat earth, and all they think about is what they were told as we were all, that people used to think the earth was flat and we laughed at them. So that is so ingrained. That was all that was said. And then we moved on to, here you go. Here is the globe, and we live on this. And then it was like, well, I don't understand, because in the Southern Hemisphere, are people like upside down then? And how does that work? Oh, this magical force called gravity. And then they tell you all this stuff. And even though it's still kind of weird, you accept it. And then it becomes ingrained into you, where it is now part of us. And the older you are, the harder it is to undo that, all of that brainwashing. So it's best to start with people and tell them, you know, like, what do you think about 9/11? You know, talk about that and see where they think on that. And if they think the right thing, okay, you know what do you think about the moon landings? You know, and
Do you know what though? You know what though? As you said earlier on though, this isn't just one lie, one thing.
No.
You started off maybe like not liking the NASA stuff, and then the layers, the matrix, the lies, just this whole thing. I mean, it is a bit like you want to try and explain all that to someone in 10 minutes. I mean, but again, you know, we woke up. We woke up, so they've got to wake up.
Mortifying to
Please.
someone, obviously, you know, to hear all of that, but it's the truth. You know, like for Russian vids, if he was here, like all of these things that I said, he would be in complete agreement to. You know, he's so awake. um it is difficult, but like the baby steps works. You know, you go from 9/11, then you move on to the moon landings. From the moon landing, you go on to Curiosity on Mars. From Curiosity on Mars, you go on to the ISS. From the ISS, you start talking about the flat Earth. And that, I think, is a successful formula to get people to see the truth. But you just make the big announcement the Earth is flat, they're just going to immediately go to their go-to, which is Columbus sailed and they ever laughed at him because he thought the Earth was flat. He was going to fall off the edge. Ha, ha, ha. That's impossible. You're ridiculous. You're a moron. Go to school. Learn physics. You know, it's so stupid. Um, it causes a lot of damage. Like Margaret, my friend that lives with us, she did that to her sister. Instead of the little break-in period, she just told her that she became a flat earther, and her sister like got really upset and mad at her. I had to do some damage control with her sister. So now, guess what? Her sister is now very open-minded to it. But you can't, on a lot of people, even if it, especially your family, just blurt it all out that you believe the Earth is now flat, because they're not going to accept it if they've got any bit of a closed-mindedness at all. They
There's
just
a part of me that's given up on all that, and occasionally people come in the chat room and they say things, and I just don't want to argue. They just have, occasionally I block someone. I just not in. I know where I am. I'm not in debate of it. Yeah, I might not know the shape completely. There may be things I don't understand or know yet, but I'm sorry, we're not a ball spinning somewhere. We're just not. And there's no such thing as gravity. They've lied about the pyramid people, lied about the sun. These things 93 million miles away. Oh my goodness gracious me.
I know, right?
Thing is,
93 million.
did it look 93? We see that's the real thing.
Number.
Like, this is how good the deception is. When you think it's 93 million miles away, it looks so far away, and then when you realise that it's only just there, oh goodness, it looks just there. You think, how could I have believed? I thought when I looked up that I was actually seeing 93 million miles.
How could you even see something that was 93 million miles away? No, regardless how big it was. Seriously.
I know, you just have to start thinking.
Yeah, critically thinking, opposed to what we were fed and spoon-fed, and just said, this is how it is. This is what it is.
But because it's a matrix, it is really hard. That's why the people themselves have to wake up, I think. Because it's just too much. They need to go through the journey. They need to find it themselves.
And it is a journey. That's the thing. The nail on the head. It's a flat earth journey. And everyone accepts the knowledge at a different pace. I don't know how long it took you, Karen, but like I said, for me, 8 months of, and I
No, I saw it. I watched a little bit of it, like say in November 2015, and I just thought I was just finishing with 9/11 and thinking I still don't have all the answers. I still didn't get to the end of all that, although I have a thought in my head about what happened. It just came to me, but and then I saw like concave or flat Earth. I just thought, oh no, not another thing to get in. No, I can't, because I knew that I'd spend months on it. And the thing is, the only reason I spend months is that every time I went to a video, it was a bit like, I want to debunk it, but you can't. And then you're actually watching them because you just know that a lot of these things are making sense.
Yes.
And it's just the first video, and January 2016, that's all it was. I watched that one and I just thought, oh, that's what all this was about then.
And that's just it. It makes sense. When everything else never made sense.
Just wanted to connect with people, and come together as best as possible. I don't know quite how we do it yet, because we do live on different lands in different time zones. But
thank goodness
the idea was
the internet made this all possible. One thing that was good from it, like one of the few things that are good about it.
I know, but do you know what? Listen, what are they going to do next, though, YouTube? So they don't like the other things, which everybody's getting strikes for. So what? Will it mean that we won't be able to talk about flat Earth or something?
I'm a bit worried about that. Yes, I am. Very much so. That they'll get to the point where they will repress us from, they'll say that Lenny, no. They'll say that we're suppressing, we're bullying these astronauts. And we'll get community strikes and get our channels removed. Like we won't be able to have that opinion anymore of what we think. It'll be considered bullying. And I hope I'm wrong, as I don't want to be right on that, because we need to keep doing this. It's so important. But it's a fear. It's a big fear of mine that will happen, because when I saw it happening with the, all these other things, it became very apparent to me that, because we had never seen that before, and we've had these truther channels for years. I mean, on YouTube, all kinds of stuff you can go to, and it's funny, they're not taking down the UFO channels or the reptilian channels or any of those things.
Nibiru channels or
But
horrible things.
to go after the
horrible other videos that they leave up, and they don't care about all the trolls coming in and
but
how people have to make accounts, and they don't care about all those things. They don't get protected from any of that.
But if it happens, then I don't know. Well, I guess we go to a different way of communicating, because we're not going to stop. So then I guess we go to DTube, because unless they start to control that.
Bling Bling.
Yes.
Bling Bling. One bit of good news, because I did wonder when I first saw that message earlier, and I thought, I've just been on YouTube. How come I can't get back to my channel? Like, they've blocked us. They've given me a strike. Oh my goodness. And I started looking around, and I started speaking to Astral, and it was like, oh, it's happening here. And oh, thank goodness, but you had to keep looking for the next half an hour just to make sure it was lots of other channels. But anyway, it's back now. The channels are back.
That's great news. Then I just remembered, and I wanted to remember earlier before we came live, it's Flathead Politics, that everyone in the chat, please sub his channel. He's making some fantastic content. He's the one that made the 3 videos over the weekend. He actually got in touch with a professional company to ask them to review the footage and tell him if it had been manipulated or not. And the guy on the phone had said there was strong evidence of manipulation. So he actually made a video over the weekend showing 2 separate footages that had the same type of manipulation in it. They're very good. And he also did that Michael Dikaku video where he says he's going to get the space elevator attached to the space station. It's on a barge, so silly. And then he made another video. And I've been in a lot of communication with him. He's really great. And I just think that his channel should be a whole bunch bigger than it is.
Did you say the channel again? People in the chat room.
It's Flathead Politics. Because I had a brain moment there where I couldn't remember the name of the channel, but then of course it just came to me just all of a sudden for some odd reason, and I didn't want to forget mentioning that, because I really, really like this guy and I love his work. And Flathead Politics. Please sub him and watch his great videos, because they're really well done. You'll really enjoy them. They're not long and arduous. They're pretty short and to the point, and he does a bang up job on them. So we'll see if he goes ahead and pays the $450 to have the video professionally analyzed or not, because that would be pretty amazing. It's funny, he had written a letter, an email to this company, and you know what they said to him in response? They said, we can do this for you, but don't expect us to say that the earth is flat, when he had never mentioned anything about flat earth. Their immediate response was, don't ask us to say the earth is flat. I mean, I was rather insulted from him over that.
They knew then, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that bad? Don't get
me
to say that. Like, can't you be truthful then? Because you know it is.
I'm sorry, honey?
So I'm saying the company must have known it was flat then, basically.
Well, it's weird, unless you use the email Flathead Politics or a Gmail or something, right? If they saw that, maybe they made the assumption or whatever. But I just thought it was too presumptuous of them to just say that, and insulting. That wasn't the point. The point was, I have footage. I want you to tell me if it's been manipulated or not. I'll pay you the money, and you give me a professional report done in an honest and unbiased view, because it's a trust issue too here, right? I mean, and are they really going to do it and sign it so he can use that? Because now they said, yes, it's manipulated, and this is why. And they give a big list of all the things that are wrong with it. So would they really sign that and give that? Because that's a pretty powerful document, right? By a professional company to say that there's definitely evidence of manipulation, that this is not what you see. There's layers and things, and it'd be really interesting. And that you can't get the metadata, sadly, though. You know, when we upload the videos off YouTube, it's all stripped. You can't get the metadata. And it would be that metadata that would really help to analyze this type of thing. So sadly, unless we were there ourselves with our own cameras, we're never going to get that.
No. Bling Bling, we've been going with you now for about, I don't know, about 3.5 hours, and I've got a really long day at work
Okay, darling.
Yeah, but could I just say, Lev, I think Patricia's probably gone to sleep, but she'll come on if she isn't. But Lev, you've been very quiet. Is there anything you'd like to say before we... Is he there? Or has he gone?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, what a little trooper. He's still listening in.
That other thing about like the glorification of space, it's another thing that I tell people about a lot. Like you mentioned, like the astronaut going outside, and it'd be like amazing for every single astronaut that goes out. Well, also you've got like they're showing you the sun rise from the ISS, but we've never shown you the moon. We've never shown you shooting stars. We've never shown you meteor stuff.
That's what I said
and
in my little video I'm waiting to upload. You can't see the moon at all.
Like you can go online and check when meteor storms are, but we've never seen them from space. Whether it's from ISS or not, you think they'd be showcasing this and saying, "Look at where we live."
Absolutely.
You know, to see meteor storms at angle and stuff, and
Hey, Lev, I did say though, listen, they're supposed to be going round the Earth 17 odd times a day. You know, would you know whether you were coming or going?
I say it was daylight for 45 minutes, but night for 45 minutes and stuff. But it'd be crazy to live there and stuff like that, wouldn't it? If that was, a real thing like.
If it was real, yeah, it would be crazy. But the thing is, we know it's not.
We know it's not to eat like that.
How would your food even go down through your intestinal? You know how long your intestines are to get to your rectum to poop it out. And
if you lay down
speaking of poop, I just want to make one comment about poop. Sorry, people, for using such a graphic word, but we all do it. All right. They once showed poop bags. Now they're so small, and I can't imagine they'd be very regular if they really were up there and your food is taking a long time to get down because there's no magic gravity to get it to come down.
Oh,
and they
yeah.
did go. How many bags? How would you even be able to do this? One bag would not be enough. No, these are big men here. You know, they're not making small little things. They'd be huge. They wouldn't fit in that little bag. I was shocked when I saw how small these bags were. I mean, they didn't put much thought into it to say, well, they show a really big bag. Just these little tiny bags.
That's the little toilet they've got to sit on.
Yeah, the little tiny hole that you've got to line yourself up on. Really? As if, it's all impossible. There's just no way. I don't care if it has little bars that you can roll up over your knees to hold you down, It would just be impossible. And what if, for some reason you had an upset stomach and you had diarrhea? What about that? When you have water diarrhea coming out of you, you think that's just going to go down? That's all going to be floating in the air. They make sure
that their food, just say it was, it's not real. We shouldn't be talking about it. I was just going to say they probably put something in the food to make sure that doesn't happen, but it's not real. So
it's not real. But in a real world, these things happen to us. We get loose stools. We get upset stomachs. We get constipated. These things really happen to us, to every person in this world. They're not exempt. And they'd more prone because they're up there orbiting and their stomach contents are not traveling through the intestines properly. It's impossible that they would. I mean, again, it's just glossed over. Look at our shiny, clean bathroom.
I'm going to have to find that video when that guy's doing a Superman lift up and his whole feet go like, they're in a hangar or something. Or they're on a much bigger
14-story building. Everybody should go and watch some NASA footage. It's lunacy. It's hilarious.
It becomes a project, and then they're lying.
pure propaganda for the masses to brainwash you. That's it. That's why they go into every school and every university and have these live events constantly. If they're really up there on a space station doing science experiments, they'd be very busy doing that. They wouldn't have time for constant events to play with water bubbles and
Yeah.
paddles and
I feel
silly
so bad, Bling
experiments.
Bling. These little children are so in awe and they're so
I know.
excited to think, oh,
Hurts my
goodness.
heart. It hurts my heart so much. And yeah, like what they pay for these items to get shipped, and that gorilla suit would have cost like $100,000 to ship the gorilla suit, into space. Like, oh, I remember now. It all came back to me. Remember when I got the brain moment where I couldn't remember what I was going to say? The government, with the budgets and everything, they're very tight. You actually think that if it was really there, that they would authorize gorilla suits and whatnot, all the junk and stuffed animals, so many toys and things that have gone to the space station over the years. They would never authorize that kind of nonsense. They would be considered a serious environment doing serious scientific experiments to better mankind, not a play center to be speeding around in a gorilla suit. They wouldn't make it look so damn foolish. It's
Yeah, but
lunacy.
I mean, those wires and everything everywhere. I mean, it is stupid, as if they would really be in something like that in space with all those wires
It's just
and
all eye candy,
those lights.
just all eye candy to look like some place in space, that they're doing all these things in, where they're doing all those damn experiments that they're being handed over from universities on the ground somewhere in some bunker, and then presenting it off as done in space. And how the heck do you even prove it? One kid once asked a question and they never answered it. They glossed it over and pretended they didn't understand his question, but I could hear it just fine. He wanted to know, how did they water the plants in space? Because they were growing plants. They wanted to know, how did they water them? How do they get them wet? How do you pour water onto these plants that are growing? And they pretended they
Something?
didn't hear it. And
I
then
know
they
it's not supposed to be the most comfortablest in a sense, they're supposed to be on a space station. But even when they go up in the rocket, it looks the most uncomfortable place you would ever in a million years want to be. Everything, even about going up in the rocket, they're so huddled together, they've got no room. Like,
all
they can't move.
sweaty and itchy and traveling so fast, and all those vibrations, and it's just lunacy. It's just it's pure
Yeah, I know,
lunacy.
but you actually want to laugh because it's actually so ridiculous.
And it is a laugh. I laugh a lot now on them, when I just see how non-serious of an environment it is. It's just not a serious scientific experiment place. It's
Yeah, Joey in
propaganda.
the chat rooms put, and unsafe as well. Yes.
Totally.
Oh,
You know,
goodness.
absolutely. It's just, when you're awake to it, it's so nonsensical. And when you start to think how it really should be made, it's the actual opposite of what we actually see. There's no way that they would be sending up toys and gorilla suits and doing post production, like when they zoomed and they made the little blue um movement, and it looked like they morphed in a little red stuffed animal, and she took it. I think it was
That's
Katie
ridiculous.
Williams or something, and oh, here's, I can't remember the name of it. It's like these things wouldn't happen because it's a serious science place, science lab. Even though, and the thing is, they wouldn't have to be propaganding it to children all over the world.
You
There'd be
know
no
what it
reason
looks
to.
like? It looks like
Uh,
the 1980s, and everything about them looks like, no, maybe not so much of their clothes, but their suits looks like the 1980s. It doesn't look like it's it's a projection, isn't it? But you think that they'd be a lot further on by now?
yeah. And even still, like when they sent up the first astronauts in the same suits, how did they even know that they were going to work? When they did the first spacewalk, and You know, you saw it. We've all seen the footage of
Yeah, that one is when
spacewalk.
that guy keels over in the vacuum chamber. They actually say to him, "Let's see how long you can stand it in there." So they knew it wasn't going to work. They just wanted to see how much he could stand.
And the saliva started bubbling on his tongue, and then he passed out.
Yeah, and that's the only bit they ever showed you, and that was probably by accident that got out.
Yeah, really. And then that was that. You know, never do that again. And they moved to the buoyancy laboratory to, you know, which is totally the opposite of what space would be.
I mean, think about it. Why would you be testing weightlessness, like the vacuum of space, I mean, in a swimming pool? Oh.
Because you float in water, and that gives the illusion of floating in space. But when you really watch those stupid spacewalks, you always see there's often little tabs of fabric, and they're always moving to and fro like they're underwater. And now, if there's supposed to be no wind resistance or movement, why are those little things moving back and forth? It doesn't make any sense. Things should not be moving.
And the noise. Sometimes they forget and they leave the noise on there, and you think, well, it just sounds like it's underwater.
Totally, you hear the underwater all the time. It's like, you know, it's so insulting to us. Yet they've been getting away with things for so long, and they get sloppy and make mistakes, like the mistakes they have done on the live events where they forgot to, you know, screen out the harness on the back of the one guy, the joystick, and then, like I said, the hat. That was the same video where they passed the hat and they weren't supposed to, and he's pretending to hold a hat and move it to his other hand and then hang it on the wall. Another flub they did. You know, it's just all what happens afterwards. You know, they must really get upset. You know, like, you screwed
The thing is
up.
that, you know, like everybody else can say, "Oh, don't be stupid, it's real." Not us lot here. I mean, out there. The thing is that they haven't watched the hours of video, and if they really watched it and studied it, they'd know it was a lie.
Amen, Karen. Would they ever? You know, that summarizes everything right now. We could end on that right now, because that's the whole point here. Until you've walked a mile in our shoes and studied the hours and hours of footage that we have studied, you couldn't possibly come on our channels and call us retards and tell us to learn physics and say that the ISS is up there. All you have to do is, you know, get the app and find out when it's passing by your house to know that it's going there, that it's there.
You're looking at actual footage that they took.
Exactly. You know, I mean, they just, until they have sat and locked eyes and seen, and then realize, oh, yeah, that's not right. That doesn't, oh, that wouldn't happen. Oh, my word. Then they will start their journey down the rabbit hole. So until then, they need to just zip it, because they just don't know. And the ignorance that they display by immediately combating you with all of these insults because they believe in it, but yet they've never sat and analyzed any footage on their own to realize they were being lied to. Very sad.
Yeah, it is. But on that note, Bling Bling, I have to sort of end the hangout really and start thinking of going to bed.
Yes.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, and
it's been my pleasure.
I'm really pleased that you and the Morgile, Jon the Morgile, have linked up now.
Yes, that was a great connection to make. I did not know he was right here, right around the corner, basically. Yeah. So that'll be fantastic. We're going to do our first official Flat Earth event.
Yay! Anyway, I'd like to say thank you very much. Patricia's just lobbed off, I see there.
I see that too.
Thank you very much to Astral. Thank you very much to Jon the Morgile, to Lev, and of course, Bling Bling.
Thank you, Karen. And you have a wonderful rest. You certainly deserve it. You work very hard at putting together these hangouts every day. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we all do our bit, don't we? Anyway, thank you to everybody in the chat room. Big Flat Earth hugs, and we're back tomorrow. Anyway, absolutely. We will have another hangout soon, Bling Bling. And yeah, thanks very much, my darling.
Thanks to everyone in the chat.
Thanks, Lev. Still on the hangout.
See you later.
Bye-bye, Lev.
Bye, everybody. Bye, darlings.
Bye-bye.